Good evening, everyone. Sorry about the late start this evening. I was about to hit start streaming, or about to go live, and took a swig from my water bottle. And I think I must have cleaned the tap without actually rinsing it properly, because I got a mouthful of what I'm sure is, well, what I hope is laundry detergent, or dishwashing detergent. It was not fun. I had to go wash my mouth out and get I tried to then rinse the bottle, fill the water bottle back up, tasted it again. Still tasted like detergent. Rinse my mouth out again and got a glass of water. So now we're back on track. Good start to the year to get a mouthful of dishwashing detergent. Hope you had a good break. I had a great break. I meant to kind of sit down and brainstorm and think of some things to do this year and think of some topics to stream and prepare some material and prepare some ponables and that kind of thing, and then did none of that at all. But I had a really good break. It was just good to kind of get away from the keyboard a bit. I love streaming, but it was still really, really nice to have that short little hiatus. So we're back. If you've got any ideas, I know we want to get into fuzzing this year. Well, I want to get into fuzz. Some people have expressed that they want me to get into fuzzing live on camera because it's not something I'm great at. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing this year. I think we also wanted to dive a bit deeper into the heap and look at the kind of House of Pain and those kind of, I think it's called House of Pain and House of something else, all these crazy, I think they're glibc heap foo tricks. We want to get into a few of those. If you've got any requests for things that you think we would enjoy doing, let me know. Hit me up on Slack, hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are always open. So if you've got any ideas, if you've got any feedback, got any queries, questions, concerns, please reach out and let's see what we can get up to. Let's see what sort of shenanigans we can get up to this year. Speaking of shenanigans, found some really cute bugs over the Christmas break, which I hope to be able to talk about soon. And I know I've been saying for a while that I've got some disclosures that are going on that I hope to be able to talk about soon. There's one of them for an open source project that the coordinated disclosure date is, I think, the 26th of January. And worryingly, there's not been a lot of progress on patching them. There's about 5 or 6 bugs affecting a particular project that I'm really, really keen to talk about because I think they're really interesting bugs. But they're not patched. I really don't want to be dropping them. So I'll be getting in touch with that project again shortly to say, hey, can you hurry up because these are bad. People could be being affected by these. Plus, I really want to talk about them. I just want them fixed. It's some software that I used to use. I don't use it anymore, but I'd like to see those bugs fixed. And when they are, we're going to dive into them on stream because I reckon there's some really cool bugs. If there's any issues with the video, audio, please let me know. I'm always worried about that. But I thought for the first stream of the year, I think isn't there a saying that you when there's like a frog on your plate, you eat the frog first or something? That's why we're going to do PGP to start with. I probably should have spun this up before we started. So I've got a browser up. Twitch. Bear with me just 1 second. Alrighty, we have a browser. Is it, yeah, you're supposed to like eat the frog first or something? Yeah, if the first thing you do each morning is eat a live frog, you can go through the day with the satisfaction of knowing that that is, I think it's the worst thing that's going to happen to you that day. Yeah, that's why we're going to go through PGP tonight. If the first stream you can do each year is to do a stream about PGP, you can go through the rest of the year with the satisfaction of knowing that that's probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you all year of streaming. So we're doing PGP. And as people know, we're building up to basically using all our brand new YubiKeys for PGP key storage. I got my YubiKeys finally over Christmas. They spent about a month in the post, and when they did arrive, actually I've got it right here. When my keys did arrive, they I don't want to show my address, I'll just fold it over like this. Arrived in an envelope that had that written on it. So to me that kind of just screams interdict me, do nasty things to me. So I've probably got some backdoor YubiKeys because they did take a month to arrive. But we're working up to... Stream's all good here, fantastic. We're working up to putting UB keys onto PGP keys onto UB keys, so that'll probably be the next stream. I'm thinking tonight we should do kind of what I think of as being intermediate PGP. We'll start off with a quick recap of what we did with the beginner PGP stuff, just to get back up to speed, and then I'm going to talk about how to keep your long-lived master key offline. It's something that I do, but setting it up is something that you don't kind of do too often. You kind of do it once and forget about it, so I've forgotten how to do it. So we'll go through figuring out how that works as we go. So let's kick off a couple of Docker machines, one for Alice, one for Bob. In fact, I've been meaning to look up, can you set a host name with Docker run? Yeah, dash hostname equals, cool. So let's go sudo docker run hostname equals Alice. Let's go Alice desktop. Let's run a interactive Debian stable bash. Invalid hostname format Alice. Okay, kind of underscores, cool. Alice desktop. There we go. So we've got root at Alice desktop. Let's spin up another one. Let's do that again, except this time it'll be Bob desktop. Cool, so we got Alice desktop and Bob desktop. Now, when it comes to, we didn't go into PGP key parameters last time. We just kind of dived straight into, I wanted to dive straight into how PGP works, so I just kind of ignored that. But in terms of actually setting up keys that you care about, you should probably kind of spend the time to actually set GPG up, or GNU PG, to have proper key parameters, because I don't think the default ones are all too good. Do we have GPG installed? Yep. Do we have which version? Dash version? Okay, so it's GNU PG1. So there's also there's this whole thing, just like, you know, Python, we've got Python 3, but a bunch of people are still stuck on Python 2, including me, because I'm slack, and because PwnTools doesn't work in Python 3 yet. We've got GPG1 and GPG2. So I think Debian testing has actually cut across to GPG2. So if you're using Debian testing or any other really quite new cut of a distribution, you may actually have GPG2 installed. Now, I think the command line stuff's a bit different. I think GPG agent, which I'm really not looking forward to going through because I can't remember how I set mine up. GPG agent, I think, works a little bit different under GPG2. There's some differences, so be mindful of which GPG version you're running. If you're seeing weird things happen, it could be because you're using stuff for the wrong GPG. So just something to keep in mind. Now, I know that there's two resources that I've come across that seemed pretty legit. There's the Rise Up GPG best practices, and then there's Ben Nagy's PGP. Oop, not PHP. PGP. This one here. The Grux PGP stuff is also pretty good. So if we just go back here, if you just search for Ben Nagy PGP, hit this MUT, Gmail, and GPG gist link. For Rise Up, you just Rise Up GPG, hit the first one there, the Open PGP best practices. Lastly, Grok has some good stuff about PGP. So just search Grok PGP, and you want to hit one of these, probably linked to it, but there's actually a gist. Oh, the Grok tweeted how to PGP good. Maybe it's this here. Operational PGP. That sounds right. So you read this as well. They're quite good reads. We're going to focus on Rise Up and Ben Nagy. We're going to combine kind of the best of both worlds. If you're needing a lot of security assurance from your PGP use, you should take the time to do some research and make sure that the parameters you're using and the way in which you're using it is right for you and your situation. Don't just trust me. Don't trust Rise Up. Don't trust Ben Nagy. Don't trust the Grok. Kind of do your best to understand everything that fits together. Depending on, if it's super important to you, then you should do that. But otherwise, how to use this guide. basically you've got to make changes to this file here, gpg.conf. All the changes are gathered at the bottom of the page, apparently. We encourage you not to blindly copy the file, but read the document, understand what the settings do. That's basically what I just said. Don't just blindly copy this file. Don't blindly copy what I do. Do your best to actually understand what's going on. We're not going to talk about key servers at all tonight. I'm not going to actually interact with the key server because I don't want to junk them up with my junk keys. But you should read up on how key servers work. What a key server does, if you're not aware, is you can publish your public keys to a key server. So we'll generate some keys in a second. You'll see how the keys work. But the idea is that you push out all your public keys to a key server, and then you share your key ID with friends and family and loved ones. And then they can use your key ID to download your keys from a key server, all your public keys. And then they need to go through the verification process and validate that that key actually is the right key for you. And then they can call you up on the phone. We'll go through a demo of what that looks like shortly. Once that's done, they should sign your key to say that yes, this really is, for example, Alice. We'll get Bob to sign Alice's key. Alice will sign Bob's key. And what you should do once you've signed someone's key, as long as they've already got their keys on key servers, you should upload the key to a key server. Because once you sign their key, it actually kind of appends a signature to their bundle of signatures. And you owe it to them to tell the world that, hey, this person really is so-and-so. I'm going to attest to that. And then we can do this thing called build the web of trust. And that means that anyone who has validated your key with you is able to download all your friends' keys. And if you've signed them all, then they can transitively trust that because they trust that you're really you and that your key is really your key, as long as you follow good practices and you sign people's keys only when you know that it's really their key and that they're the true owner of it and that the key really does represent that person, then they can kind of follow a chain through the web of trust to basically trust that people's keys really are people's keys. So that's key servers. The second thing that a key server does, though, is it handles updates. So when someone signs your key and uploads it to a key server, that's one kind of update to a key. It's new information about that key. Someone has signed it. They want to announce to key servers. Anyone who's already got your key can refresh your key or refresh all their keys from key servers. In which case, they'll have all of the people's keys in their own keychain. GPG will go to a key server, and for each key that's in the keychain, we'll ask, hey, can I download the whole bundle again? And if there's any new signatures, then it'll basically be represented in their keychain then. Another way in which your keys can become updated is that you can revoke them, or you can revoke some of them. So it's kind of a bit complicated. We'll see it shortly. But in fact, we should probably just get on with some demos so that we can actually see something. When you think of your PGP key, it's actually multiple keys. You've got the master key, and then you've got one or more subkeys. Actually, 0 or more subkeys. You don't need to have subkeys, but GPG by default creates subkeys, so it's pretty rare that you'll have someone with only one key. And all these keys kind of then get tied together and knit together by that master key. That master key kind of threads the needle and kind of stitches them all together. So you can revoke your master key, which I'm pretty sure just blows all your keys out of the water. They all become useless. Or you can revoke subkeys. You can say that this particular subkey hanging off the master key is either no longer used, or it's been compromised, or you've lost the private material. And these attestations are signed by the master key, and they form what's called a revocation certificate. So you should always generate revocation certificates for keys that you have, in case you lose the master key. Because if you lose the master key, you're shit out of luck. You can't go and create a revocation certificate to say to everyone, hey, I was silly, I didn't back my stuff up, and I've lost my keys, stop using it. Too bad. You can't revoke them once you've lost that master key. So generate revocation certificates and keep them highly available before you lose the master key, basically. But there's a dead man's switch. You should also always put expiration dates on your master key, and probably also your subkeys. An expiration date isn't as scary as it sounds. It's not saying that, hey, in 2 years' time, I'm going to regenerate all my PGP keys. An expiration date is more like a dead man's switch. It means that if you lose your master key, and when I say lose, I don't mean have it stolen. I mean your machine blows up. If you lose your master key, then you can kind of go, oh, well, the keys will expire in 18 months anyway. I'll just kind of sit on my hands for 18 months until they die off. And I'll generate a new key in the meantime, but it means that basically that key will die a natural death rather than sticking around forever. You can always extend your expiration dates. So you're not locked into having your keys actually die in 2 years. If 18 months comes around, 19, 20 months comes around, and you're going, I like this key, I want to keep using it, then you can use the master key to extend the expiration date, and then just push out that extended key to key servers. Which is a really good idea because it's, again, dead man's switch, but second of all, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of this shortly, it forces people to continually refresh your key from key servers. If you've got expiration dates that kind of come and go, then people are going to go, hey, your key doesn't work anymore because it's expired. If they're clever, then they'll know that they should refresh it from their key servers. If they're not that clever, then they'll say to you, hey, give me a new key, it's expired. And you can go, no, just refresh it from key servers. It'll be sweet, bro. And that's good. The more regularly that you can force people to refresh your key from a key server, the more readily they can pick up updates. Updates such as you actually revoked the whole thing, or actually that doesn't really count, but maybe if you revoked subkeys and generated different subkeys, you want people to pick up those changes on a pretty regular basis, and by putting an expiration date on your key, you force them to do that. So that's good. So that's all I really want to say about key servers. They basically store your keys online so other people can download them. As well as that, there's stuff like Keybase. Keybase is pretty cool. Keybase, it replaces key servers because you can just go and download people's keys from their profile. If you go to /Justin Stephen, you'll see this ugly fella, and you can just click on the key, and you can download this. You can click these links, and or you can copy paste this block here to get my public keys. But the other thing Keybase does as well is it's aiming to actually replace the web of trust largely. I mean, I don't use it to replace the web of trust. I still sign keys. You can download command line tools for Keybase that'll kind of automatically do trusting and other sorts of stuff. But I really just use it to follow people like OJ, Peleus. What you can do is you can come to my Keybase profile. And you can see that on Twitter I am Justin Stephen. There's a link to a tweet. If you click on that tweet link, then you'll see this here. You can copy paste this, you can do stuff with it, and this will basically, if you trust that I'm really this person on Twitter, this gives you an anchor from which you can go, okay, so this Twitter account made this attestation, and here is actually a signature that you can validate using GPG. That lets you then hop across to here and go, okay, this really is that jerk on Twitter who's always super mouthy and annoying. So the social aspects of Keybase means that you don't need to trust that I really am Justin, a person. You can kind of just go, hey, it's just this really mouthy guy on Twitter or what have you, and you can use that as your anchor from which to base trust in my key. I mean, you still shouldn't be signing my key based on this whole thing here, but it should, for your personal purposes, give you assurance that this key here, FC541779, really is my key. So that replaces key servers in a lot of ways. Anyway, we should probably go back to configuring PGP. Boring. Actually, you should read all this. I mean, I'm saying boring, but you should definitely read it. Like, this is super important. We covered that last time as well. But I'm jumping through looking for configuration. Here they talk about generating revocation certificates. You should just read this. I'm not going to read it out. I'll go through the bits of this that I think are most important, just as they kind of come to me throughout the night. But it's super good. I'm not looking to replace this guide at all. Here's some checks. These are just things you can use to check if your key's healthy or not. They're actually not giving us much of a config as we go. So here we go. So Jacob Applebaum has a collection of hardened configuration files. So here's an example. Yeah, it's from IOERA. So this is Jacob Applebaum's GPG conf. You could probably just copy paste bits of that. That's really all they give you. A link to that. And I was looking for this config file here. So we'll go based on this. So Alice, what Alice wants to do is she wants to make the directory .gnu-pg if it doesn't exist already. So Alice runs as root on the desktop because she's silly like that. GNU-PG, it already exists. So we want a vim.gnu-pg/gpg.conf, I think it was. Vim's not installed. Vi's not installed, great. Gotta love minimal Docker images with no tools. So we'll install it to Alice and Bob. So this is looking like a really good config file actually. So we want to vim.gnu-pg/gpg.conf. Cool. What have we got here? We've got just a banner, so we'll get rid of this banner here. Uncomment the following to get rid of the copyright notice. Yeah, sure, that sounds good. We don't want to set default key. This guide here also speaks of setting the default key. We'll do that. The default key otherwise is the first key found in the secret keyring, which is fine for our purposes. So this is interesting. Default recipient and default recipient self. When you encrypt stuff with PGP, you actually don't encrypt it to yourself. Like you're encrypting it just to the other person. So this is kind of tricky when you're sending email. If you're the kind of person who likes to go back through their sent items folder and laugh about all the hilarious things you said in an email, if you GPG encrypt it to your recipient, then you won't be able to read your own sent items unless you encrypt to self. I mean, this kind of thing here is normally best configured inside your mail client anyway. Tell your mail client, hey, when you send stuff, also encrypt it to me. How's it going, Nax? All good to have you around? Minimal you say while using Debian. Well, it's a Docker image, so there's like nothing in the Debian Docker image. Well, nothing in the Debian Docker image as compared to desktops. It's a huge Docker image when it comes to Docker, but I'm sitting here using it as a desktop, so that's why I say it's minimal. But you're right, it's not minimal when it comes to Docker. There's much smaller options. So when it comes to this here, you're better off if it's mail. When it comes to email, doing it in email client. I mean, the beauty of PGP is that by default you're actually locking yourself out of stuff, which is kind of cool in some situations. Like you can, if you're about to cross a border somewhere that you're worried that you're carrying a bunch of data to give to someone and you don't want to be forced to actually decrypt it, you can PGP it to them, delete the original, and then you can't open it until you get to your friend's place and they decrypt it for you. So the fact that it doesn't encrypt itself is actually kind of good. But we'll leave those commented out for now. Oh, maybe, no, okay, never mind. That default recipient means something else. Encrypt to is what you do to add the specific key, a specified key as a recipient to all messages. That there's what I was just talking about, not the default recipient stuff. We're going to leave that commented out anyway. By default, GNU-PG creates version 4 signatures, blah, 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 blah. Earlier versions require the older one. So we'll leave this out. It looks like it's back compat kind of stuff, unless Jacob brings it back in which case we'll bring it back in. The rest of this looks kind of boring. Some Unicode stuff because the world's changing and people don't always type in English. I wonder if Jacob deals with that. Nope. Yeah, I'm not good at knowing what character set to pick for stuff, so I'm going to leave that commented out. You can create groups, like if you've got a team at work, for example, the DevOps team, then you can actually create a group DevOps, and when you just then encrypt to DevOps, it'll encrypt to everyone. That's not really useful for things like email. Your mail client will handle when you send to a group of people in your mail client, actually encrypting to each person. This is good when you're actually using PGP to encrypt stuff on the command line, and you can have a group to encrypt stuff to. Key server stuff. The default one, keys.pg.net's fine for us because we're not going to use it anyway. Common options for key server functions, bunch of proxy stuff. Boring. And there's heaps here. It's a big config file. And we're at the end. We'll just ignore those comments there. So this is, Jacob suggests that you set your default key if you need to. We're not going to do that. This all looks pretty good. So when you ASCII armor your stuff, when you actually PGP encrypt stuff, and you actually pick the ASCII armored option, by default, GPG will actually put its own version banner in there, which is not good. You want to avoid that kind of nonsense because it may help people fingerprint who's sending what to whom. So that looks like a good option. Disable comment strings in clear text signatures, and that sounds like good. Disabling more strings in clear text stuff sounds good. This is super important. You should never actually trust someone's short key ID. For example, here's what a short key ID looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that there is a 32-bit key ID. 4F25E3B6. Super easy to read over the phone, but super insecure. This is what a OX long ID looks like. So the key ID format OX long will make sure that all throughout the GPG interface, keys look like this. They don't just look like this bit at the end. And the reason for that is there's this attack that was dubbed Evil 32. If you are in the habit of using short key IDs, they're only 32 bits, it's trivial to create collisions, and this team actually created collisions for everyone in the strong set. So this is what a long ID looks like, short IDs look like that. Don't use short IDs because it's super easy for someone to actually go, oh, Justin's key is FC541779. I'm just going to generate keys using a GPU until I actually come up with a key that has the same 32-bit key ID. Much harder to generate a collision with a long key ID that would probably take all the energy in the universe a couple times over to actually collide with that key ID. That's a good idea. List all keys along with their fingerprints. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Why not? Display the calculated validity of user IDs during key listings. Yeah, why not? I think that's to do with, it'll show whether someone's key is trusted or not by you. Try to use the agent. We're not going to use that because we don't have any agents running, and I don't want to deal with agents tonight. GPG agents are basically, you run the daemon as yourself. And it's like SSH agent. It'll run in the background and it will provide a socket for which GPG can talk to and actually request that operations be performed using your keys, which is like SSH agent. Funny that. So it means that if you've got a passphrase, a nice long passphrase on your GPG key, which you should, then you only need to type it once at the beginning of the day, and for the rest of the day, the agent actually handles the use of your key. You don't need to keep on typing in your passphrase. The agent is also how things like YubiKeys are interacted with. The agent is what does that from memory. So the agent will be super important next stream. We'll have to actually set one up. Key server stuff, we're just going to leave all this out. We're not dealing with key servers tonight. You should read up on key servers. What's Jacob telling us? We should use HKPS, which is the secure protocol. And we should use this pool of key servers, which is a well-known pool. And it means that I'm pretty sure that using HKPS means that a man in the middle can't see which keys you're requesting. I mean, it doesn't matter that a man in the middle can see the contents of the keys you're sending and receiving, because the key server data is public keys. It's all public knowledge. It doesn't matter, really. The issue is privacy and anonymity. If a man in the middle can see that you're asking for these 4 particular journalists' keys, might be interesting for certain men in the middle. So you want to kind of stop a man in the middle from seeing whose key you are interested in. So HKPS is like the HTTPS to HTTP. There's a protocol called HKP. The S means it is encrypted in transit. And you need to actually get the HKPS certificate that basically is used to sign every server in this pool. And the good thing as well is that this is a pool, so therefore you should theoretically be asking different servers for different keys, and it should be hard for all those servers to kind of collaborate and figure out whose keys you're asking for. But if you don't trust the key servers to kind of keep your interests in certain people private, you should do your key updates over Tor. And that will then mean that even the key servers don't know whose keys you're interested in. Don't leak DNS. I'm guessing this is to do with Tor. Means that it won't actually leak stuff outside Tor. This is important if you're super paranoid and wanting to use this pool and blah 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 blah, because a particular key can actually have embedded in it the key server from which to refresh the key. And so by turning this knob, GPG will ignore that directive in any given key. It will always go to the HKPS pool skskeyservers.net. When searching for a key with search keys, include keys that are marked on the key server as revoked. Don't really know why you turn that on. Maybe because you're just curious and wanting to see what revoked keys are out in the world, but that's fine. This is where it gets super important, and you want to have these settings in there before you start generating keys. It basically it details your cipher preferences and digest preferences. So cipher preferences basically is an ordered list of which encryption ciphers you want other people to use when sending stuff to you. Don't leak DNS is not using public servers. Okay, so no try. Hang on, SRV. Maybe it's to do with SRV records. I should probably read this Tor listing, Tor posting to see what that is. Yeah, cool. Looks like GPG leaks DNS requests out the side, even when you tell it to go through Tor. It's probably what it's to do with. Yeah, this here's the super important stuff. The cipher preferences is to do with when someone's encrypting. I think it's what it is. I think this is what it is. When someone's encrypting stuff to you, you're telling them based on some metadata within your key. This preference list appears inside your key and says, "I'd really like you to use AES 256." If you don't support that, or if you're encrypting to two people, and the other person you're encrypting to says that they don't support 256, then try this one. Then try AES, then try Cast5. And so it basically says cascade down this list until you find a cipher that you can encrypt to using your software, and that is supported by all the recipients of the message. ExpressVPN is good with don't link. Okay, cool. Thanks, Noel. Personal digest preferences. I don't know what this list is for. Obviously these are hash algorithms. I don't know why you'd list digest preferences, because I really would think that when you're creating signatures that you don't need it baked into your key, because you can make the decision, because it's your software. Maybe this is to do with when you actually load your key into another machine. If that machine doesn't support one of these four ciphers, hash algorithms, maybe that means that the software will just refuse to create the signature. Maybe. Or maybe it's to do with the hash algorithm used when you're signing your own keys and signing other people's keys. Maybe. Nope. This is the one used when signing a key, and you only list SHA-512. Okay, that makes sense. This is the hash algorithm used when you're actually creating key signatures on your key and others' keys. But yeah, the fact that you have to list preferences for this is kind of interesting. Anyway, this preference list is used for new keys and becomes a default for setpref. Default preference list, that. So this combines a whole bunch of hash algorithms with a whole bunch of encryption algorithms with a whole bunch of compression algorithms. And you prefer zlib to bzip2 to zip to uncompressed. So this is I don't know if these kind of are redundant, these three, but whatever. These are super important. You should have these in your gpg.conf before you start creating keys. Otherwise, you might create keys with bad settings. So that's important. So we decided that of Jacob's stuff, that all of this was important except for the agent. We don't need the agent. But otherwise, we decided that all these look like good ideas. So we'll paste those in. Key server we don't need to worry about, but this is super important. So we'll paste that into our GPG conf as well. So we'll save that. Let's go to Ben Nagy's and see if Ben Nagy's guide agrees with Jacob's. You should read all this as well. So here is here's the GPG RC. And that's the MUT RC. I'm just checking to see if there's a GPG conf. No, I'm guessing the GPG.rc is the GPG.conf. So what does Ben suggest? No greeting. I think we actually had no greeting as part of, yep, the original GPG conf settings. We uncommented that there. So Ben sets a default key. We're not going to bother. We're only going to have one secret key on this machine. Default recipient self. Okay. So Ben set this option here. What is that going to do? That's to do with, yeah, making sure that you can read what you encrypt. We're going to leave that out. Require cross-certification. That was not in Rise Up. What does that mean? Oop, that went down the wrong way. This looks like a good idea. We should probably have this. So we'll copy that from Ben. I'd like to read that in depth later, but it sounds like it's just a good extra secure idea. So I'll paste that in. Personal cipher preferences, AES256, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Jacob suggested that your personal cipher preferences should include cast5. Ben doesn't think cast5 is worth including. So we could leave it in, we could take it out. That would be kind of up to your personal security needs. We'll leave it in. We'll leave cast5 in there. It won't matter because Ben and Alice will both have the same version of GPG. They're both going to use AES256. Anyway, digest preferences, that matches. So that agrees there. Throw key IDs is interesting. Ben put this. I don't know why Ben put this in there. Because that means that you're not going to have to validate anyone's key. You can just encrypt to them and validate their signatures even without doing key validation. I don't know why that's there. That's an interesting choice. Maybe Ben uses PGP in an interesting way, using just offline machines, and he actually calls people up and gets keys and shuffles them using USB drives. Maybe he gets keys in person, maybe he doesn't use key servers, maybe he trusts the keys that he imports. Throw key IDs is probably worth mentioning. Man, we haven't even set up keys and actually encrypted stuff as a demo yet. We'll get to the demos. Throw key IDs. When you encrypt something to one person, pretty simple. We're not going to go into the mechanics of that. But when you start encrypting things to two people, your brain starts to go, hang on, how does that work? If I encrypt a 1 megabyte message to two people, is it going to encrypt it twice and then kind of append them and concatenate them and have a 2 megabyte message? If I encrypt a 1 megabyte message to 100 people, is the encrypted message going to be 100 megabytes big? How PGP works is when you encrypt a message to n people, it will generate one random symmetric key. Because the other thing to remember is that when you encrypt something to someone else using PGP, when you're using PGP keys, they're asymmetric. It's asymmetric cryptography. You've got a public half and a private half. Asymmetric cryptography is slow compared to symmetric cryptography. For symmetric cryptography, the key that you use to encrypt something is the key that you use to decrypt it. One key that reverses itself. With asymmetric crypto, you encrypt something to the public part and decrypt it with the private. Or you encrypt it with the private part and decrypt it with the public. Next door neighbours are having good fun by the sounds of it. It's much slower to do asymmetric crypto than symmetric crypto. Plus that whole thing about, 100 people, 1 megabyte, does it become 100 megabytes, is the reason why GPG will generate one symmetric key randomly, and then we'll encrypt the 1 megabyte message with that symmetric key. So you got the ciphertext message, and you got this random key that encrypted it. What PGP will then do is it will then use the N recipient's public keys. It will encrypt the random symmetric key to each person, and then we'll construct a final payload that is made up of all those encrypted copies of the symmetric key, one for each person, and then the full 1 megabyte message, which was encrypted using the symmetric key. So when you get a PGP encrypted message, it's almost as though there's one big blob of encrypted data, and then a whole bunch of tiny little padlocked lockboxes. And you need to go through that pile of lockboxes and get your private key and use that to asymmetrically decrypt or asymmetrically unlock your lockbox, pull out the symmetric key, and then use that symmetric key, which is the same thing in all the lockboxes, just encrypted with different people's public keys, use that symmetric key to decrypt the main message. So it's a two-step process to encrypt it, it's a two-step process to decrypt it. So how do you know which of the 1, 2, 3, when it's 1 you know which one is yours, but if let's say there were 6 people that a message was encrypted to, how do you know which of the 6 lockboxes your key is going to work on? And the way that GPG does it is it labels each of them. It includes the key ID who has that has the corresponding private part for decrypting that copy of the symmetric key. Right? So that makes it easy. You kind of look at the pile of lockboxes, you look for the one with your name on it, and then you pull your key out and you unlock it and you get the symmetric key. Happy days. The issue is that is a metadata leak. It's information about the information. If someone is sniffing the wire, well, I mean, if you're emailing PGP encrypted stuff around, they're just going to look at the email headers and see who it was sent from and who it was sent to. But let's say you encrypted something to 100 people and chucked it on Pastebin, or chucked it in a Reddit comment, or put it and split it across like 1,000 tweets. If you're just kind of leaving the encrypted matter somewhere in public for the recipients to come by and pick it up later, then all these key IDs that are written on all the lockboxes will let anyone know who this message is for, and that's bad. That's not good. So, throw key IDs. What it does is each copy of those symmetric keys doesn't have a name on it. It doesn't have a key ID. I think it actually has a dummy key ID full of 0. So then if you get an encrypted message and all the key IDs have been thrown, how do you know which lockbox your private key works for? Well, let's say you've got like 20 private keys. How do you know which one of your 20 private keys will unlock one of these 20 symmetric keys that were appended to the message, encrypted? The answer is that you just brute force it. You get each one of your private keys and you just try it against every single one of the encrypted copies of the symmetric key until one of them works, or until none of them work, in which case GPG will go, yeah, none of those worked, bro. So your machine can sit there for 5-10 seconds just churning and brute forcing with all your keys against all the boxes. But that's the price you pay for a bit more anonymity with regards to the recipients of a message. Yes, I am indeed, Noel. That's good guess. Everyone says that different states have different accents. I've never been able to pick up on it. Mind you, I'm just terrible at accents in general. Like, I can't pick up where in the world someone's from, let alone where within the country they're from. So we're not going to do throw key IDs tonight, but it's important to know that that option is there should you have the need for anonymity to that extent. But otherwise, that looks like a pretty good config to me. We've got what have we added? We've basically just gone through and uncommented some of the default GPG stuff, like the no greeting option. But we've also gone through and added some of Jacob's stuff to do with not leaking the version of GPG you use in the messages you encrypt, not leaking comments, having a OX long key ID format, listing fingerprints with the keys, showing validity. Nice, relatively strong. I mean, again, Ben Nagy said to get rid of this cast 5 option, but otherwise this is a pretty solid list of cipher preferences, a solid list of digest preferences, a solid digest algorithm for your certificate signing, pretty solid preferences list, and then Ben said, I think it was Ben, yeah, Ben said to do the require cross-certification. So now we need to do the same for Bob. Let's just go gpg-v. That'll create a file for us, gpg.conf. So what do? We got rid of the no greeting. I think that's really all we changed in the default settings. Yep, cool. And then we'll just go and add in the other stuff. So we had this here. We don't want to use the agent though. We'll also drop in algorithms and ciphers. And Ben was suggesting that we require cross-certification. And now Alice and Bob have the same GPG conf, which means they've both got nice same configurations. So, we're getting towards where we ended up last year. We need to generate some keys. So we do gpg-gen-key. And we want to choose the key we want. We're going to choose number 1, the default, which is RSA and RSA. I haven't played around with DSA and Elgamal. I think Elgamal is like a elliptic curve type crypto. Keys that can only sign stuff sounds super boring. So we're going to go with the standard. Most everyone that I've spoken to or communicated with has RSA keys. So RSA keys may be between 1024 and 4096 bits long. What key size do you want? I'm going to be slack. I'm going to choose 1024 just to make this quicker. Because the more bits of entropy that you want in your key, the longer it'll take to generate, because your machine's got to sit there and actually generate more entropy. So I'm going to be slack and choose 1024. Don't ever do that. I would suggest that these days your RSA keys should be 4K bits. If you've got a YubiKey 4, I'm pretty comfortable saying that all of your keys should be 4K. If you've got a YubiKey Neo, an older model YubiKey, those devices only support 2K RSA keys for their onboard cryptography circuitry. In which case you probably want to have a master key that is 4K and then subkeys that are 2K. And we're going to play around with subkeys tonight, but for the time being, just to get a demo up and running, I'm going to choose 1024 across the board just to be really quick. You should choose 4K for your master, and then 4K for your sub if you've got a YubiKey 4, or 2K for your sub if you've got a YubiKey Neo. If you want to be super crazy, maybe you want to patch your GPG to allow you to have an 8K master key. If you want to go crazy, it may mean that you need to spend longer when you sign other people's keys. Your machine might sit there kind of spinning a bit longer. Other people might need to sit there spinning a bit longer when they validate your signatures on people's keys. So maybe there's performance hits. It's up to you how paranoid you want to be, but 4K, I believe, is scheduled to be good for a fair while into the future. But we're being cheap doing 1K. Now we're back to expiries, and as we said before, you should always have an expiry of like 2 years. There's nothing saying you can't go back in later and extend it once it's coming up for expiration. And it acts as a dead man's switch. If you lose your key material, it means that your keys actually die a natural death rather than living forever. So we'll pick a 2-year expiration. Is that date correct? Looks like 2 years to me. So your real name is Alice. Email address will go alice@example.com. Comment, always leave the comment blank. Just always, don't put anything cheeky there. Don't put work computer there. Don't put 4K RSA key there. Don't put new key, ignore the old one. Just leave the comment blank. I believe that it's I think it was Debian complained, had a really good rant. Let's go Debian GPG key comment. They had a pretty good rant about never putting comments there. Nope, not Debian. Someone else did. It was a good rant. Don't do it. There's no need. It's actually a bad idea. Blank comment. Does that look okay? I'm going to press O for OK and go enter. Put in a passphrase. You should always have strong passphrases. Oh, I got questions in chat. What are you coding? Ruby script. Tonight, all we're doing, programming is probably not a good hashtag for tonight. I normally put programming in to kind of, because we do a bit of coding sometimes, but tonight we're just talking about PGP. It's a encryption tool used for encrypted email, encrypted messages, signed software updates, things of that nature. So it's just a bit of crypto tonight, and secure use of crypto tools. Welcome, by the way. Hope you get something out of it. If not, we'll be doing more programming stuff in weeks to come, so hope you'll join us then. Always put passphrases on your keys. If someone actually gets a copy of your key file, then the passphrase is the last thing standing between them not being able to use it and them being able to use it. So we're going to put, we should probably, let's do the right thing. I did the 1K key before, so let's do the right thing this time. Let's do a semi-right thing. Let's have the same passphrase for Alice and Bob, just so I'm lazy. Pass, generate, GPG, 16 characters long. There you go. You should pick a nice memorable password, a passphrase, a nice long passphrase, correct horse battery staple, something of that nature, because yeah, you don't want people, if they've got a copy of your key, cracking it. That's the passphrase. We'll put it in again. There we go, key generated nice and quick because it's a small key. And here are the details of the key we just generated. So now Bob's going to do the same thing. GPG-gen-key. We're going to pick number 1. Key size 1024. 2 years. Yep. Real name is Bob. Bob@example.com. I stuffed that up. I broke it. I computed good. Let's try again. 1024. 2 years. Yes. Bob. Really? Bob. Come on. Bob example. Bob@example.com. Comment, we'll leave blank. Okay. Passphrase. Same passphrase as Alice's. I'm choosing my password manager to type it in for me. Alright, so now it's a bit starved for entropy, so we'll leave it for a minute so it can generate that key. No, I'm not null. Were you answering on my behalf or your behalf? So, CoopJ121, I'm using Debian on the host, as well as Debian inside Docker, just for a couple of throwaway containers. So Debian on Debian. Ruby script, you're an information security major. Awesome. Very cool. Hope you enjoy your stay, Ruby script. We normally cover a lot of exploitation kind of stuff. So normally we're actually looking at pwns, little tiny binary pwnables or web pwnables. So that's the sort of stuff that we normally cover. But I thought that a lot of people have recently bought, here's mine that arrived the other day, YubiKeys in their Christmas or in their Thanksgiving sale. And YubiKeys are a totally baller place to put your PGP keys, and so people are kind of chomping at the bit to find out how and why I put my PGP key on my YubiKey. So we're building up to that. Jeff, which password manager do I use? I use Pass for Unix, and it is amazing. In fact, I can do a quick demo of it now. While we're... Oh, Bob's done, but we're going to do a password manager demo anyway. Pass is super cool. So I've actually I've got a couple of different pass profiles, so to speak. I've currently got my Twitch one activated and my daily one deactivated so that I don't go showing passwords on stream. But you just run pass and it'll show you a tree view of what's in your password store. So in /password store, there's a whole bunch of GPG. Actually, it's a pretty fitting topic. Passwords pass is powered by GPG. So these are all GPG encrypted files that contain a password for each thing, like my Twitch TV password, which I am not showing on stream, as opposed to my gpg.gpg password, which is the GPG passphrase for Alice and Bob. So now what you can do is you can go pass, I think it's pass add. How does it work? Oh, you never really do pass add. You might do like pass insert. So you do pass insert. The password name is foobar. The password for foobar is fizzbuzz. Ignore that. That's just because my GPG agent's a little bit wonky right now. No, my GPG's a bit wonky. I've got some deprecated options in there. But when you do this and actually add the password foobar fizzbuzz, it'll actually GPG encrypt the file inside /password store. So we can go GPG decrypt /password store /foobar. And there it is. It's decrypted it. And so it's encrypted to my 2K, which is going to soon be a 4K key once I get my YubiKey 4 up and running. It's actually encrypted to my PGP key. So my PGP key sits on my YubiKey. So if my YubiKey gets unplugged, which I'll do now, you can't decrypt that password anymore. So you can only actually decrypt my passwords when the YubiKey is physically attached. And every time you plug and unplug a YubiKey, you've got to put a PIN number back in to actually unlock the smart card. And then once you've done that, GPG agent will keep that PIN number for you. Actually, no, I think it's the YubiKey that keeps the PIN number for you. So what you can do now is you can go pass foobar. It'll just spit it out to stood out. Or you can do pass -c foobar. It'll copy foobar to the clipboard and clear it in 45 seconds. And there it is. The password for foobar was fizzbuzz. You can go pass generate. It's foobar2, 24 characters. And there it is. It'll generate a random password and actually add it to the keychain, to the password store for you. Pass remove foobar. Yup. Remove foobar2. Yup. Finally, you can go, and I use i3 for a window manager, and you can, I think I use Rofi Pass. If I go Windows S, yep, Rofi Pass pops up as a pop-up, and I can just go GPG, enter, and it'll type my password for me. So that's how I use Pass. It's a super simple password manager that just encrypts your passwords into a text file to your PGP key. And then I've got, oops, sorry, bumped the microphone. I've got Rofi Pass to do typing of my passwords for me, or you can do the -c thing to copy it to the clipboard. You can edit, you can pass edit GPG, and just go and edit that password in Vim. All sorts of cool stuff. Really wicked password manager. No, I'm not doing it, Noel. Not going to happen. Yeah, Jeff, YubiKeys are pretty cool. I do recommend them. That's my password manager. What are we up to? Bob and Alice have both got keys. Cool. So now what Alice can do is go GPG, export the key for Alice. Oh, and I just stuffed my terminal. I was lucky that it didn't stuff it completely. We should always do --armor. If we're going to kind of copy paste stuff around, rather than coming out as binary gobbledygook, it comes out as ASCII. So now Alice can copy her public key, give it to Bob, She can paste it into an email, paste it into Slack. This is in lieu of doing the key server upload download thing, and in lieu of doing the keybase upload share thing. You can just copy paste these blocks around. Bob can then either vim alice.key and paste it in there. Alternatively, he can just cat up until end of file and pipe it into gpg import. Paste it in, end of file, and there we go. Alice's key was imported. Bob can do gpg armor export Bob. Copy his public key block, and for Alice we'll do it the other way around. We'll actually go on vim bob.key, paste it in, and then gpg import bob.key. Done. Now we'll remove bob.key. So now Alice and Bob both have, Alice has list keys. Alice has 2 keys in her keychain, one for Alice and one for Bob example. Alice has 1 key, because that was done with gpg list keys. If Alice does gpg list secret keys, she's only got 1 secret key in her keychain. It's her own key. Same thing for Bob. Bob can do list keys, and Bob has Bob and Alice. Bob can do gpg list secret keys, and he only has Bob. Now, let's say Alice wants to encrypt a message to Bob. Message to bob.text. Hi there, Bob. Hope you're well. Alice. So we've got this message to Bob. Let's say Alice wants to encrypt it to Bob. So she can do gpg-e message to Bob. We should probably do --armor to make it easier to copy paste between the 2 windows. So Alice will do gpg-armor-e for encrypt, and the file that she wants to encrypt to Bob. Now this is just for demo purposes on the command line. From time to time you may find yourself encrypting files to other people on the command line. Most of the time you'll just be using a mail client. It'll do it for you. But this is a good way to demo stuff up. So the recipients, let's say that Alice wants to encrypt it to herself, just so she can read it later on. So I'll put in Alice, and then Alice's... Oh, I lied before. I may have lied before. Yes, I totally lied. Okay, cool. When Jacob said to do key ID format is OX long, that is not a long ID. I think that's a full ID. This is long here. So it's twice as long as a short ID. Right, so this highlighted bit is short. That there is a long ID. I think that there is a full ID. And you should always use full IDs when you do the verification step, which we're going to do in a second. So I beg your pardon on that one. So Alice is going to encrypt a message to Bob to herself, just so she can read it tomorrow and kind of go, that was a cool message. She also wants to encrypt it to Bob. And when GPG is asking you to specify the user IDs to whom something will be encrypted, you can put in their name, put in their email address, it's fine, or you can put in their short ID, this thing here, or you can put in their long ID, or you can put in their full ID. It's pretty easy going. If you just go and put in Bob and you've got multiple Bobs in your keychain, GPG may very well pick the wrong key, in which case it'll actually come up in this list here and you'll go, it's not the Bob that I meant, and then you just go Control-C and start again. But in this case, there's not many people in Alice's keychain, so she's just going to go Bob and press Enter. And she gets not an error, a warning. There is no assurance that this key belongs to the named user. And here's some information about the key that she's tried to use for Bob example. It is not certain that the key belongs to the person named in the user ID. If you really know what you're doing, you may answer the next question with yes. Use this key anyway. The default is N for no. So Alice gets a bit scared and she just goes Control-C and quits out of it. And then Alice thinks, where did I go wrong in life? Why is it Wednesday evening at almost 9 o'clock and I'm doing PGP stuff? Alice asks some close friends, how do I PGP? And the friends say, oh, that warning there, just press yes, it doesn't matter. But Alice knows better than that. Alice knows that warnings are there for a reason. She asks a smarter friend. And the smarter friend says, you need to actually get in touch with Bob and validate his key. Just like if you use Signal Messenger, you really should be going in and actually comparing people's fingerprints and stuff in your chats. You should be comparing people's key fingerprints to make sure that there was no man in the middle who gave you a dodgy key that actually has Bob's name on it, but isn't Bob's key. Or the key server was malicious and said, oh yeah, I'll give you that, but gave you a different key. There was a bug about that kind of got fixed. The point is, you should validate the fingerprints. Have I found hacks on real programs? You betcha. Dover Yawn. I've got 3 that are currently in the works. Not going to say who, but in the next couple of weeks I should be able to publish one. I think in the next couple of weeks I will be able to publish the other because that vendor really should patch pretty quickly. And the third one I'm not holding my breath too much for. The reason why the first one I'm talking about is because the disclosure period's coming to an end. I gave them 90 days and it's running out quickly. So that's going to be in the next few weeks. But apart from that, I found a really cracker bug, I think, in Metasploit last year. The Metasploit Pro updaters were stomping on a key with a static value so I could get remote code exec against Metasploit Pro, which I thought was hilarious. So I found that. What else have I published? I've got a whole bunch of bugs that got quietly reported to people that I chose not to publish. But in terms of, when I find stuff in open source software, that gets dropped because I think the community can benefit from that. So that answers the question. Yeah, I've found some hacks in real programs. Not many. I'd like to find more, but I've found a couple. Yeah, I agree, RubyScript. Sounds like you and I are resonating on the same frequency. I agree. It kind of bugs me when people, yeah, I'm not going to get into the rant. If you want to hear the rant, read the description, people. I don't like the question, can you teach me to hack? If someone says, hey, can you teach me more about PGP? Then I'll talk their ear off for like 4 hours. Someone says, can you help me understand how a debugger helps you do exploits? I'll talk your ear off. If you've got a specific question that shows you've got an interest in a specific area, because the other thing is hacking such... I said I wasn't going to... I'm done. I'm not going to rant. I like specific questions, but I don't like that question, that general question. The rant's below. So Alice, she got this warning, and her friend told her that she needs to validate Bob's fingerprint. And Alice goes, okay, cool. And she does some research and finds out that this is how you do it. You got 2 options. You got GPG-sign, I think it's -sign-key. It is, or -lsign-key. 2 options. Both of these require Alice to get in touch with Bob and compare what's called the key fingerprint, which is conveniently on Bob's screen right now, actually. Bob should quickly do it. Actually, we'll do it in a second. And then Alice should basically, once she has used her eyes to kind of validate that the fingerprint that her copy of Bob's key has matches, she should sign Bob's key with her private key. The difference between these two here, sign key and L-sign key, is that L-sign is a local signature. It's just for her computer's purposes. If Alice ever sends Bob's key back up to a key server, the local signature won't be sent to the key server. It kind of keeps it to herself. She may not want to be known to be associating with Bob. She may not have actually done key validation with Bob. She just wants to get rid of the warning, but she is polite. And she knows that if she hasn't really validated Bob's key fingerprint, she should not be telling the world that she has validated Bob's key fingerprint. That is where a local signature may be appropriate in those 2 cases. Otherwise, if Alice wants to help Bob be a bigger part of the PGP community and be trusted by more people, she should use sign key to say, hey, I've done the legwork, this really is Mr. Bob Example's key. If you trust me, you should trust that that's Bob's key. So sign key is normally the way to go. So Alice does GPG-sign-key Bob. And she gets this message here. And it talks about Bob's public key. It's got the creation date, the expiration dates, and we're going to get into these usages soon. It's got Bob's name, Bob's email, blah, 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 blah. Same thing again by the looks of it. Bob's name, Bob's email. The key's due to expire on this date. Are you sure you want to sign this key with your key, Alice? Blah, blah, blah. Really sign? Yes or no? So, at this stage, Alice needs to check this here. Oops. And she needs to get in touch with Bob and say, hey Bob, what's your key fingerprint? And Bob's going to do, on his computer, gpg fingerprint Bob, and get back his key fingerprint. And they're going to read them out over the... What happened? This here. Does Bob have 2 PGP keys? No, this is a sub key. I think one of the options I turned on. Hang on, I'm confused now because I've never seen 2 key fingerprints before. I'm going to turn this option off here with fingerprint. I'm going to turn that off for a second because I didn't expect to see what I just saw. That's what I'm used to seeing. Only 1 fingerprint. I don't need to see fingerprints for sub keys. That's my personal decision. So that makes more sense. Bob's going to do gpg fingerprint for Bob, and he's going to read this out over the phone. And Alice is going to read along here and make sure that her view of Bob's key has the same fingerprint. And once Alice has confirmed that these 2 match, she's going to go, okay, this really is Bob's real key. At this stage, Alice needs to make a decision. Does she trust that Bob on the phone really is Bob at example.com? Because what she's doing is she's making a public statement that the key with this fingerprint really belongs to this person. Or Bob may have multiple identities, multiple names, and multiple email addresses attached to his key, in which case Alice has to make the statement that yes, they all are the same person and that they are the owner of this key. I think you can also get fine-grained and say, hey, I know that Bob at example.com really is Bob, but bobexample at gmail.com, that's not how I know him. And she can choose to only sign certain identities of Bob. WTF is the new PGP. I'm not sure what WTF is. Are buffer overflows still possible on Linux and Windows? Yes. Yes, they are. It's a tricky question. To answer it the way it's been posed, yes, buffer overflows are still possible. A buffer overflow can happen on Windows and Linux these days. Because at the root of it, a buffer overflow is simply a region of memory overflowing. Full stop. Nothing to do with hacking, nothing to do with code execution. Yes, you can still have buffer overflows. Is buffer overflow exploitation still possible is a more specific question. The answer to that is also yes. You can still exploit buffer overflows. It's harder these days. Stack canaries are a real pain in the butthole. ASLR is a real pain in the butthole. NX and DEP are a real pain in the buttholes. All these mitigation things. Windows is coming out with what's called a shadow stack on Windows 10. That's going to be a massive pain in the butthole. Exploiting them sucks. It's difficult these days because of all the protections that are going into the build, the compilation, and also going into the runtime. But to answer your question exactly as it's posed, yes, you can still have buffer overflows. Are they exploitable? Yeah, they're hard, but you can do it. Sometimes. I mean, some buffer overflows, some bugs are unexploitable just due to the nature of them. They may be a crash, but it's just almost impossible to get code execution due to the constraints that the bug primitive gives you. But yeah, it still happens. There you go. Parody nailed it. Yeah, no, that's the NX bit or the DEP bit, or the DEP or NX. Does it not matter? No, it matters, and it makes exploitation really difficult. Makes it really, really annoying to exploit stuff these days. But it's possible to work around it. In particular, the NX bit, or the execute disabled bit, you use a technique known as return-oriented programming, or ROP, generally to get around it. You can also use something called ret to libc, generally to get around it. Or ret to any other library that gives you a primitive that's of interest to you. So those are when Parity speaks of advanced exploitation techniques, ROP is one of those. Return to libc is not so advanced, but it probably classifies as advanced exploitation techniques for most people. That's how you get around the NX stuff. So yeah, pain in the butthole, but yeah, still possible. Alright, where do we pick up? Where do we leave off? Okay, yep, so Alice is we went through this last time. This is a recap. We want to get to the good stuff. So if you're going to sign people's keys, know what you're getting yourself into. Don't sign people's keys unless you've actually done the fingerprint validation and validated that yes, it is actually Mr. Bob Example with this email address. Alice is going to go, yes, really sign. She needs to enter the passphrase for her own key, and we're done. Now if Alice does GPG list signatures for Bob, or list signature Bob, nope. List sigs Bob, there we go. Then you can see for Bob that Bob signed his own key. That's how GPG works. Everything is self-signed. So Bob's master key signed his master key, as well as signed his subkey. And this signing of the subkey is what ties everything together. Bob's only got one subkey at the moment, this one here, as indicated by sub. But the master key, this one here, the master public key, was also signed by Alice. So Alice can now, based on the fact that she signed it, trust that it really is Bob's key. You may be wondering, why does Alice need to sign Bob's key if it's on her own computer? Like, can't she just accept it once and accept it forever? And have like a config file in her home directory that is like, yeah, Bob's key's totes legit. Stop annoying me about it. Yeah, you could, but that'd be a vulnerability, because anyone who then gets access to Alice's computer could tamper with that config file. So really, you want to actually have signatures end to end the whole way through all the time. It's like when you're riding a motorbike, it's all the gear all the time. When you're doing crypto, it's all the key validation, trust chain checking all the time. And it stops someone who can tamper with Alice's home directory from making her think that a malicious key for Bob is still Bob's key. Of course, if someone's messing with Alice's home directory, she's already having a really bad day. But Alice has now signed Bob's key. And now to be polite, Alice should go GPG export Bob. She should also armor it so it doesn't blow up her terminal. And she should copy paste this back to Bob and go, hey Bob, just so you know, I signed your key. Here's the signed copy. And Bob should then go cat from up until end of file into GPG import, paste it in, end of file, and there you go. It's got one new signature. So now Bob has imported Alice's signature, and next time Bob exports his own key, it'll have Alice's signature in it for free. And then when he gives it to Carol, it'll be like, hey Carol, here you go. Alice has already signed this, by the way, so if you already trust Alice's key, this is already signed by Alice's key, so you'll actually trust it's really my key. And that's the web of trust working. Now, if you may be wondering, what if Bob had changed his key in the meantime? When he imported Alice's copy, would that undo his changes? No, it wouldn't. As far as I know. I mean, you should probably check that. But as far as I know, it will merge it. It will actually only kind of take the stuff in Alice's blob that is new and import just the changes. And if Alice had messed with Bob's key and like changed some of the bits and stuff, Bob's import would probably fail because it wouldn't actually validate against the signatures that he has on his own key. Probably. Maybe. Maybe you don't trust me though. I don't know. I'm just a guy with a computer. So, Alice can now encrypt, she can finally encrypt that message to Bob. Enter the username, the user ID is Alice and Bob, and she can now enter an empty line, and she's encrypted the message to Bob. If we have a look, she's got this message to bob.text.asc. We'll cat that file, and it's a PGP message. And Bob can then, she can copy paste that into Slack, and Bob can go, let's just call it m.text, and paste that in. And Bob can go gpg decrypt m.text, enter Bob's keys passphrase, and Bob's going to put in his passphrase. Now, when you put your passphrase in, it's actually not using your passphrase to do the decryption of the message. Important point. Just like for an SSH key, a GPG key passphrase is used to encrypt your key on disk. So it's basically wrapping another layer of symmetric passphrase-based encryption around your key. So if someone steals your key is encrypted and they need your password to decrypt it. So when you put your password in here, you're not decrypting the message. You're decrypting your key, and your key decrypts the message. I just thought that was important to mention. And so Bob can do gpg-d for decrypt m.text, put his passphrase in, and then it speaks to the fact that the message was encrypted with this key ID for Alice, and this key ID for Bob. See, this here is what we were talking about before with Ben Nagy's throwing of key IDs, because Bob could figure out that it was actually encrypted to Alice and Bob. And here's the message. Furthermore, Bob didn't need to decrypt the message to figure this bit out, or to figure that bit out. It's actually clear text. Bob can do gpg-list-packets. GPG list packets is really interesting. It's kind of like the Wireshark of GPG. You can list packets on anything. You can list packets on a key. You can list packets on a signed message. You can list packets on an encrypted message. If you're really bored and want to have fun, just download stuff and list packets on it and see what you can find. So if Bob lists the packets on m.text, he has the option to put his passphrase in. I think that's just going to give him more information, more verbose listing of packets. If he just presses enter a couple of times, it'll fail. And here is the list packets. Here is the output of list packets. And because I just whacked enter a couple of times, Bob's private key was not involved at all in this listing of packets because I failed to actually unlock his key for him. So there's some stuff here. There's a pub key enc packet. There's an encrypted data packet of length 114. And then it says GPG encrypted with blah blah blah. This is the ID. And this is the ID. So even without the Bob's private key, he could figure out that it was actually encrypted to Alice and himself. Do you have a favorite framework for pushing exploits? What do you mean pushing Ruby scripts? If I'm just doing really loose and fast development, I'm going to use what's called Pwn Tools, which is a Python library, Python module, for super rapid exploit development. It's really good for stuff like it was developed in the capture the flag world. It's got a bunch of helpers for capture the flag style challenges, but it's just got some really nice exploit helping stuff in it. If I'm going for more long term, more kind of operational use, or wanting to share it with other people or publish it, I will use Metasploit. That's when it comes to actually writing my own exploits. When it comes to consuming other people's exploits, you take what you can get. You hope it's in Metasploit, because if it's in Metasploit, then you know that it will just interoperate with the rest of the framework. You can have all your sessions sitting in MSF console, you can use different payloads, you can do post-exploitation really nicely, and you also know that it was vetted by the maintainers of the framework before it was accepted in there. So they kind of do their own quick tests to make sure it works. But if the exploit you need is not in Metasploit framework, then you're down to looking at Perl scripts and Python scripts and Bash scripts and PHP scripts and stuff on ExploitDB, and you can take what you can get. Is there an assembly compiler on Linux that doesn't compile to a stupid ELF file? I want to code for other hardware. I'm not big on that, but I think you're looking for cross-compilation. A cross-compiler is a compilable capable of creating executable code for a platform other than the one on which the compiler is running. for example, a compiler runs on Windows 7 but produces code for an Android smartphone is a cross-compiler. So I'm pretty sure you can use even stuff like GCC and Clang as cross-compilers. You need to have the libraries and stuff for the architecture you're targeting and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure you can use a lot of compilers for cross-compilation. Okay, cool. Parody's on it. Good to have you around, Prostandril. This stream is lit. And I'm guessing that's a emote, but I'm using IRC here so I don't get emotes. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. I'm going to get another glass of water. Because if you missed the beginning of the stream, my water bottle is out of action because it tastes like dishwashing detergent. I think I must have cleaned the tap and then not rinsed the detergent off because I took a swig before the stream started and got a mouthful of lime, soapy disgustingness. So I'm going to get another glass of water. We'll be back in 5 minutes. If you need to take a break, if you need to get a glass of water, if you need to do what you need to do, you've got 5 minutes, and otherwise we will be back in 5 minutes. Alrighty, let's get back into it, because I just realised we'll be going for about an hour and a half and we're not even up to the intermediate stuff. This has been like a recap of the beginner stuff that we did last year, and we're already 90 minutes in, so we should hurry up. Now, Alice was talking to her friend, and she found out that she should be validating Bob's keys. And while on the blower to her friend said, "Hey, you've generated revocation certificates, haven't you?" And Alice said, "No, I haven't done that." The friend said, "You've got a passphrase on your key." And Alice said, "Yes, I've done that one. I was smart enough to do the passphrase, but forgot the revocation certificates." So Alice's friend told Alice to generate revocation certificates before she loses access to her master key. So Alice just does gpg -help and gets a whole bunch of stuff, and then greps for revoke and gets this gen revoke. And Alice goes, "That sounds pretty legit." So Alice does gpg -gen revoke. --armor always sounds like a good idea. And she's not sure if gen revoke's gonna spit the revocation certificate to standard out or actually save a file, so she's just gonna run it for now. And she's got to specify the user ID apparently. So as always, Alice can do alice or alice@example.com, or she can list keys, and she can actually use her key ID. She could use this if she wanted to. Let's do that one. So Alice does gpg gen revoke. She puts a --armor at the beginning, and gen revokes for this key ID. And it comes back saying, here are the details of the key. Do you want to create a revocation certificate for this key? Alice says yes. And then GPG asks, what's the reason for the revocation? There's no reason specified. The key's been compromised. The key's been superseded. The key is no longer used. Or cancel. You probably want to choose one here. And Alice goes, Didn't know revocation certificates had purposes. It says you probably want to choose one, and Alice goes, "Well, yeah, maybe I want to keep a copy of a revocation certificate handy in case of compromise. But then again, if my key's been compromised, I've probably still got a copy. Like, it may have been stolen, but I've probably still got a backup copy. I mean, I could make this one here. Let's not do number one. The key's been superseded. Key's no longer used." Alice goes, "If I've lost the key, like as in my laptop blew up, then I probably want number 3. Alice thinks about it and goes, "Maybe I want to do, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and save a copy of each." Because when you generate a revocation certificate, it doesn't revoke your key. The certificate is just some text that you can later use to actually trigger the revocation. There's no reason why you can't generate a revocation certificate for all 4 reasons. For the no reason, the compromise, the superseded, and the no longer used. And then in the event that you need to kind of use one of them, you can kind of sit down and go, well, which one should I use? And you can think about it and go, well, the key wasn't compromised, but I'm going to generate a new one, and I've lost my laptop. I'm going to go superseded, and you can kind of choose the revocation certificate on the spot. But for now, Alice will just go number 3. Key is no longer used. Enter an optional description, end it with an empty line. Let's just leave that one blank. No description, is that okay? Yes, that's fine. So you need the passphrase, because when you generate a revocation certificate, the certificate is signed by your master key. So you need to go and enter your passphrase to decrypt your keys. And here we go. That is a revocation certificate. The revocation certificate was created. Please move it to a medium that you can hide away. If Mallory gets access to this certificate, he can use it to make your key unusable. It's smart to print it and store it away. But have some caution, your printer may cache the data and make it available to others. That's cool. That's a super short thing. Like, you could totally write that out and put it in a book and type it back in later or something. And you might want to do this exercise for all of them, for all those reasons. Now, how do you keep your revocation certificates? The idea is, in my mind, that you want to keep your revocation certificates highly available and relatively confidential. if you lose your key and you lose your revocation certificate because you were keeping the revocation certificate on your laptop, that's not keeping your certificate highly available. And you've just ruined the purpose of having it because you lost it when you need it most. But why should you keep it relatively confidential? As this says here, if someone wants to be a troll and gets a copy of your revocation certificate because you kept it printed out in your top drawer at work, they can steal it, type it out, and they can actually submit it to key servers. And then all of a sudden, your key is forever dead. Like, you can't undo revocation. That's the whole point of revocation. If your key gets compromised, you want to kind of go and press the big red button and make sure that the person who stole your key can never ever actually use it, in as much as they can use it to decrypt old emails and old files, but no one in the world's ever going to trust it again. No one's ever going to encrypt to it again, so they can't read stuff going forwards. That's why I say keep it relatively confidential, because troll's going to troll, haters going to hate, people are going to revoke. But yeah, keep it highly available. As opposed to your keys, which you want to keep relatively available, like you want to make sure you don't lose them, but you want to keep them very highly confidential, because having your keys compromised means you're having a bad day. So this is a revocation certificate for the keys no longer used. So Alice might want to go and just copy this and vim revo.text and just go and paste it in there. And she can just keep in mind that this is for the key. I think she picked number 3, keys no longer used. That sounds like a reasonable reason for a revo. So Alice has done the needful. She's printed it out. She's made 2 copies. She's put one in a safety deposit box. She's put the other one under a pillow, kept them highly available and relatively confidential. Now, a couple of months down the track, and Alice catches up with her friend again. And Alice's friend asks, so how are you finding PGP? And Alice goes, yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of it. I'm using it to talk to Bob. We encrypt our love letters to each other and no one in the middle can read them. We've validated each other's keys. We've signed each other's keys. I'm starting to meet more and more people, and I've put my PGP key ID on my business card. People are starting to sign it. I'm signing other people's keys. We're emailing encrypted. It's great. And her friend goes, cool. Now, I didn't want to kind of overwhelm you back when you were getting into this, but maybe you should have thought long and hard about how you generated your keys. And Alice says, oh no, it's fine. I followed the Rise Up guide and the Ben Nagy's guide, and I did the cipher stuff. And her friend goes, well, that's good. But there's some next level PGP stuff in which you actually use subkeys. And it's good for a lot of reasons. And Alice goes, oh, okay, cool. So can I convert my key into this new way of thinking? And her friend goes, sort of, but not really. And her friend kind of continues and explains the reason why you want to use subkeys to their maximum potential and why you want to be careful about how you generate your keys, how you store your master key, and how you use your master key is that Alice's desktop has gotten a copy of her master key. Like, it's in her /GNU PGP /secring.gpg. Like her private key for the master key and her private key for the sub key. If Alice does gpg edit key for Alice, you can see that Alice has got a master key and a sub key. Both these keys are on her desktop, and yeah, they've got a passphrase on them. The problem is, what if Alice's desktop is compromised? The malware could have stolen the key, and it could have logged the passphrase, and an attacker could have a copy of both of these keys. And that kind of sucks. That really sucks. There's a way to use GPG in which it makes the compromise of your desktop less catastrophic. Like, it's going to suck. You're going to have a whole bunch of, you're going to have your mail stolen, you're going to have all your old emails decrypted, you're going to have your web browsing history posted on Pastebin. Like, it's going to be a bad time. You can make it like a slight little bit less worse by keeping your master key offline and never ever letting your master key touch an internet connected computer. Because remember that this master key here, I said it was before that it's used to stitch and to join all your subkeys and your multiple keys together. So we should get into these usages here, these capabilities. There are 4, I'm pretty sure there's only 4, capabilities that any given PGP key can have. And when I say key, Alice's key is actually made up of 2 keys. So the master key can have 1 or more of 4 capabilities. Each of the subkeys, of which there's only 1, can have 1 or more of the capabilities. There's nothing stopping you from having multiple keys with the same capability. But I don't think it makes sense to have multiple keys with the C capability. The C capability is like the holy grail of your keyring as far as key validation goes. So your master key is typically the one with the C capability. Let's talk about capabilities. So C means certify. S means sign, and you might think that sign and certify sound very similar, and you wouldn't be too silly in thinking so, but there's a very key difference between them. E means encrypt, which is a bit of a misnomer, and A means authenticate. I think. Pretty sure that's what they all are. Now the certify capability is to sign your keys, or sorry, self-sign your keys, sign other people's keys. That's what the C bit means. It means that you can certify or self-sign your keys, and you can certify or sign other people's keys. Sign, even though both these have the word sign in them, sign is to sign data. So certify is for signing keys. Sign is for signing data and messages, which we haven't done an example of tonight. We're not going to get into that for a demo because this is already taking longer than I really hoped it would. Encrypt is a bit of a misnomer. Encrypt is to your private encryption key is to decrypt data sent to you. So when other people need to send you stuff, they will encrypt it to one of your keys or subkeys that have the encrypt bit set. In this case, Alice would have all her stuff encrypted to this key here. So here, you've got key IDs everywhere. As far as the world needs to know, Alice is this key ID. All the key IDs of the subkeys are just minor details that don't matter too much day to day. The master key is the important part. And by the way, I didn't labor the point before, but for Bob, this is his key ID, this is his key fingerprint. The key ID is actually the least significant bits of the fingerprint. So you've got, ECC2, 3282, 3282, just in there. So Bob's fingerprint is actually his full key ID, and the key ID is just the last little tail end of the key fingerprint. Fun fact. So that's what the E bit's for, and authenticate is for, as far as I know, SSH. I don't know if you can do other stuff with authenticate capable GPG keys. I know that I use my authenticate key for SSH. My SSH key actually hangs off my GPG keychain. So if you go through the effort of validating my GPG key, then my SSH public key actually hangs off it. And if you want to give me access to your servers, which is an activity I highly recommend, then you can export my SSH key out of my GPG key, which is a really nice way of basically, if you do need me to access one of your servers, instead of saying, hey, can you just send your SSH public key over Slack? And I'll go, yeah, sure, I can do that, but what if Slack changes it between you and me? What if a man in the middle changes my SSH public key and you put a malicious public key on your server? If you want to be safe, you can just export it out of my GPG key. Fun fact. So that's what these 4 capabilities mean when it comes to PGP keys and subkeys. So now you can see that Alice's master key has the sign and certify bits set, and her only subkey has the encrypt bit set, and she has no authenticate keys. Now, what Alice's friend was getting at was, hey, why do you need to have a key on your day-to-day machine that has the certify bit set? Like, that is the keys to the kingdom key that can certify and self-sign your subkeys and sign other people's keys. Like, yeah, you might need to sign someone's key from time to time. Do you really need to have that key on your desktop though? Because if someone steals that key, they can generate revocation certificates and blow your whole keychain up. They can create new subkeys and put them on key servers. And there's no way to basically back out of that except for you to issue your own revocation certificate and blow the whole keychain away. What if you kept that key offline on an SD card in a drawer, or in an SD card in a bank safe deposit box, and only ever brought it online onto a laptop that had its Wi-Fi modem turned off, Bluetooth turned off, Ethernet unplugged, booted off a live CD? You know, you boot off a live CD, you do your PGP master key stuff with that super secure centralized certification key, and then when you were done, you shut that machine down and just kind of sneaker-netted all the signed keys back to your day-to-day machine for sending off to key servers. Like, yeah, it sucks, it's a bit of a roundabout way of doing things, but it opens up a lot of good opportunities. For example, I mean, Bob had to get Alice on the phone and say, hey Alice, what's your key fingerprint? And Alice had to read it out. What if Bob never ever had to do that again for Alice? Even if Alice wanted to rotate her keys for security reasons, and we'll get to the security reasons about key rotation shortly. What if Alice thought that her machine might be compromised and thought that her keys may have been potentially leaked? She can just use her master key to revoke those subkeys that may have been compromised and generate new subkeys and upload the revocation and upload those new subkeys to key servers and just go, hey Bob, my old keys, they felt a bit, I wasn't so sure about them. You should refresh my keys from key servers to get the revocation and get the brand new subkeys. And Bob just has to do gpg-refresh-keys Alice, and Bob will download Alice's new subkeys. Doesn't need to call Alice up because those new subkeys were signed by her certifying key, which Bob's already validated. So by having your master key offline, it gives you a lot of flexibility with regards to changing your subkeys without changing your holy grail identity in the GPG web of trust, and it means your friends don't have to go and revalidate stuff with you. It's pretty cool. So have I missed anything in chat? Metasploit were a bit defensive. Didn't know they were defensive. Are you saying that, I think I know that, are you talking about Egypt's talk at, I can't remember which conference it was. Even I claimed it was a feature in the pull request. I'm totally, if they're saying it's a feature, that's fine, because that's how I actually announced it. Oop, the dog's in trouble. Pull requests. Yeah, exploit a feature, not a bug. Yeah, I'm totally cool. If they're saying it's a feature, that's totally cool with me. Because I actually admitted in the pull request that it's... And I actually emailed some of the people at Rapid7 before I published that with a pull request saying, hey, do you mind me doing this? And they were like, yeah, that's funny, that's cool. Yeah, I think I read this as well. Yeah, it's not a vulnerability. I 100% agree. Yep, that's totally cool. And I said that in the pull request. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Yeah, but it's still a useful exploit to have. It's still a useful module to have. Maybe it's not an exploit, but it's a module. Moral of the story, and if this only has one moral and it gets people to know that they shouldn't give junior people on the team who they may not trust access to the organization's Metasploit Pro, you shouldn't give consultants access to Metasploit Pro, you shouldn't give customers access to Metasploit Pro so that they can go and look at their own results. Don't give access to Metasploit Pro or Metasploit Community or Metasploit Express to people you don't trust. Pro is different. Pro, actually, you can have limited users that can't exploit this bug, but Express and Community, don't give access to people you don't trust because they can shell your box. And if this module there reminds people of that, it did its job. So does that make sense as to why Alice may want to keep her certify key offline? I mean, it gives her the flexibility to basically rejig her subkeys down the track, revoke them selectively, and just go, hey, new year, new keys. I'm going to revoke the shit out of all my subkeys and generate new subkeys and sign them with my master key. Or sorry, certify them with my master key and ship them out. And Bob doesn't need to call me back up to go, hey, what's your new GPG key ID? Hey, can we do the fingerprint validation? Because Alice uses the same master key ID all the time. So now Alice knows that her current master key, this one here, has been sitting on her computer for the last couple of months. And she knows that if she wants to make the most out of this new way of using GPG and PGP, she can't keep using that key that has touched the online computer, because that would break this new personal policy she has of keep the master key offline. So she thinks long and hard about it and goes, it's only been a couple of months, I've only got like 4 or 5 people who have signed my key, I'm gonna declare bankruptcy on this key and just create a new one and have a firm offline master key policy moving forwards. So what she does is she actually imports that revocation certificate to her own keychain. So you just do GPG -- import the revocation certificate that she just created, and you get this. You get the revocation certificate was imported. There was one thing processed, one new key revocations, blah 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 blah. So now Alice should either send that updated key out to the key servers, but we're not doing key servers tonight because I don't want to junk them up. At the very least, she should do GPG -- export. Whoops. Do -- armor -- export Alice. She should copy this whole block, and she should give it to the 4 or 5 people who she knows has a copy of her key, and goes, hey everyone, important announcement, I've revoked my key, please import this to your computers. And so Bob will then go GPG -- whoops, cat end of file into GPG -- import, paste, end of file, and Bob will now have imported Alice's revoked key. And if Bob does GPG list keys, then you get this here, Alice is revoked. And if Bob tries to go message to Alice .text, hi Alice, thanks for the heads up, saves it, GPG encrypt message to Alice. He's going to encrypt it to himself, as you do, and to Alice. And you actually get no such user ID because the key's been revoked. You can't encrypt to it, so it actually didn't match anything. I thought GPG was going to complain and say, this key's revoked, do you want to do it anyway? But GPG just says, nah, you can't encrypt to a revoked key. So that revocation certificate did its job. At this stage, Bob can actually go GPG -- delete keys, Alice, nope, delete key, nope, help, grep delete, GPG, no, delete keys, Alice, and yeah, he's just going to delete Alice because Alice's key was revoked, so it doesn't matter anymore anyway. So now, what Alice does is she goes and spins up her offline machine. She spins up, let's say, Kali or Tails or Ubuntu or some Debian live CD on a offline computer. She's got a laptop. She's unplugged the Ethernet. She's turned off the Wi-Fi in the BIOS. She's put tinfoil on the Windows, nothing's getting in, nothing's getting out, and she boots up the machine. Sudo docker run hostname equals Alice offline -ti debian bash. There we go. So she's got her offline machine. Alice needs to do the whole config of the GPG parameters again. So she goes and she'll probably just kind of use her online machine to save the config to a file and put it on USB rather than type it out, because of course Alice can't copy paste into this offline computer. She can't browse the web from the offline computer. But Alice goes ahead and she configures. Alice doesn't have Vim installed on her offline computer, so she installs it. Of course, Alice wouldn't have access to the internet, but we need Vim, so we'll just install it. Very cool. Very cool, Russia. Yeah, nice. I sometimes fix bugs. I mostly find bugs. Tonight we're not really doing coding. We're looking at PGP crypto stuff, but other times we do exploit development and exploit coding and stuff. Can PGP do Firefly? Null. What is Firefly? Firefly crypto. Oh, okay. I would say no. Looks to me like Firefly is key management. GPG has its own key management. It's got key servers, it's got the web of trust, it's got signing keys, it's got importing and exporting keys and sending them over Slack. Like, that's the idea of key management in GPG. There is a protocol called HKP for actually sending and receiving data to and from key servers, but there's no idea of key management like I'm guessing Firefly is. Alright, so Alice is still installing Vim so she can go and actually set up GPG properly. Alright, let's do that Vimming again. So Alice knows that she likes turning off that greeting at the top there. And then she goes and she pastes in Jacob's stuff. All this behavior stuff sounded pretty good, except for the agent. Alice doesn't use agents. So I'll copy that, copy this. And the Ben Nagy thing, this looked good as well. Right, so Alice's offline machine now has all those parameters set up to actually create keys properly. Now Alice needs to create this disjointed keyring. There is one decision that Alice needs to make, and Alice can look at edit key Alice. There is one decision. I have seen people with different opinions on this. For your master key, it needs to have the certify bit set. No two ways about that. The question is, should your master key be allowed to create signatures? I had a shower thought the other day as to why your master key shouldn't be able to create signatures. But it escapes me now. Some people say your master key should be able to create signatures. I don't think mine can create signatures. Edit key FC541779. Oops, edit key. Yeah, so my master key is certify only. My master key cannot create signatures. I've got 3 subkeys, one for encryption, one for signing, one for authentication. But yeah, the master key is certify only. Some people say your master key should be able to create signatures because some people want you to use your master key to sign something about yourself, to say what your favorite color is, or I don't know. So do some research, decide as to whether your master key should be able to create signatures or whether it should be a purely certify key and you should have subkeys for encryption and signing. Now I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to wing this one. I'm pretty sure it's GPG gen key -- expert. Yeah, this looks good. We get more options with expert. So Alice is going to do an expert generation of keys just so she can turn off that signing bit on her master key. We'll go with the signing bit off tonight, but you should do some research. We're going to go the same as usual, RSA and RSA, number 1. What size key do you want? We're just going to go cheap and do a small key just for time's sake, entropy sake. But you should do at least 4K for your master key and at least 2K for your sub keys, if not 4K for your sub keys. It depends on whether you've got a YubiKey 4 or a YubiKey Neo. As we said earlier, YubiKey 4 can support 4K keys. YubiKey Neo can only support up to 2K keys. Alice is just going to go 1024 today. This is cool. So when you do expert, you get to pick the key size for the master, and you get to pick a different key size for the sub key. Neat. Alice will just do a 1024 for both of them. But this would be useful if you've got a YubiKey Neo. Then you probably want to have a 4K master key and 2K sub keys. And it means that when you go and get a YubiKey 4, next time you do an order from Yubico, you can then generate 4K sub keys signed by your 4K master key, and you're in the brand new 4K crypto world. Alice is just going to go 1024 there as well. Expiration, same as usual, 2 years. You might want to go shorter, you might want to go longer. A good reason to go shorter, if you're really going to kind of embrace this whole master key, sub key, offline sub key rotation thing with a passion, maybe you want to have a 1 year expiration or a 6 month expiration. And that way you'll force people to check in with key servers on a regular basis to pick up changes to your keys and to get your new sub keys. Alice will just go 2 years. Is that date correct? Looks like 2 years to me. Real name is Alice. Email address is alice@example.com. The comment we always leave blank. That looks fine to me, so we go OK. You should always check your spelling of everything before you go OK. Enter a passphrase. We'll go the same passphrase we've been using all night. Just out of the password manager. And there we go. We've got a key. So, at this stage, Alice should go on her offline machine, GPG -- export -- armor actually, -- export Alice. Actually, no, she shouldn't. She should do GPG -- edit - key Alice. Look at that, I never actually managed to take away that sign capability of the master key. Well, doesn't really matter too much anyway. Now, what Alice is planning on doing is keeping this key offline. So she's going to need a separate subkey in addition to this encryption subkey for signing purposes. I'm missing stuff in chat. Looks like Null's got it under control. So Alice is planning on taking this key offline, but she wants to have a signing key for day-to-day use. Now, remember, difference between a signing key and a certify key. The signing key is for signing emails and signing Git commits and signing software updates that you want to publish, whereas the certify key is for signing keys. Alice doesn't want to certify keys every day on her laptop. In fact, she wants her daily laptop to not be able to sign keys because that's the whole point of keeping the master key offline. But Alice needs a new subkey with the signature capability. So she'll do GPG -- edit - key Alice, then she'll go help and read the help for the edit keys, and she'll go, okay, what have we got? Add key, add a subkey. That sounds really good. You should read through all these. There might be some cool things in there. You might want to experiment with the edit keys and play around because there's some cool things in here. Don't do it on keys you care about because you can end up actually revoking stuff or breaking stuff. Do it in the lab with a dummy key. But Alice sees this add key and goes, yeah, that's probably what I want to do to add a new subkey for signatures. So Alice goes add key. and she needs to unlock the secret key for the master key so that she can actually create the self-signature on this new subkey. So Alice puts in her PGP passphrase. What kind of key do you want? DSA, RSA, El Gamal, RSA, encrypt only. We want to go RSA sign only, because we want a signature key and to be an RSA key, so we go number 4. What key size do you want? Again, we're just doing the small keys today. How long should it be valid for? 2 years. Actually, do subkeys have expirations? Yes, subkeys do have expirations. So this subkey is valid for 2 years. I mean, maybe she wants to have a 2-year expiration on her signing keys and a 6-month expiration on her encryption keys, because she wants to change her encryption keys all the time but doesn't want to change the signing ones. Alice can have different expiration dates on different parts of her key. That's possible, and you need to think about what you might need. Otherwise, just keep it all to 2 years. Is that date correct? Looks good to me. Always check your clock as well when you're generating keys to make sure you're not generating keys that expire in the year 2002, because your machine's clock is set to the year 2000. One more thing when you're generating keys as well. Wasabi and I actually had a chat about this via email for a bit of back and forth. If you are generating keys on a laptop, maybe you want to boot it, drain the entropy pool, and you can drain the entropy pool by just doing cat dev random to dev null until it runs out, and then maybe let it sit there and collect some entropy from things like spinning disks, maybe plug a USB disk into it to give it some way of generating entropy, and do some stuff to generate entropy. I mean, that's if you want to be totally paranoid and not trust the random number generator that your box boots with. You might want to generate some fresh entropy using a truly random source somehow, but you're really off in the paranoid weeds if you're worrying too much about the entropy in your pool. Otherwise, Alice is going to go, yep, that date looks good to me. It looks like 2 years from now. Holy crap, it's 2017. Does Alice really want to create this subkey? Yes. There we go. Alice now has a signing and certification key at the top here. That's her master key. She's now got an encryption subkey and a signing subkey. And these are the keys that she wants to have on her computer day to day. This is the key that she wants to keep offline on an SD card and only pull it out when she really needs to do stuff with it. Now the question is, what if Alice has multiple computers? Maybe she wants a different signing key on each one so that she can keep track of where she signs stuff from. Or maybe she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want people to know whether the message came from one computer or the other. Maybe she wants separate signing keys on 2 computers so that if one of the computers gets compromised, she can only revoke one signing key and not revoke the other. Because when you revoke a signing key, I'm pretty sure it'll revoke all the signatures that key has ever made. This is a signing key, not a certified key, by the way. So maybe Alice wants one signing key per computer. Maybe she doesn't. But there's the option to do that if she decides that's what she wants to do. Should Alice have a different encryption key for each computer? The answer is no. There's no point in having more than one encryption key and going, this is the encryption subkey I'll put on my laptop, this is the encryption subkey I'll put on my desktop. If you want to do that, you need 2 completely different keys with different master keys. Because you can always make an intelligent decision about which signing key to use when you're using your machines. You can always go, well, this is my laptop and I've only got signing key number 2 on there, so I'm going to use it. But when Alice gets an email from Bob gets to pick which key to encrypt it to. And Bob's GPG is probably just going to pick the first one in the list, or pick it at random. I'm not too sure about how GPG will decide which encryption subkey to use, because no one has multiple encryption subkeys because of this reason. I mean, it's technically possible, it's just useless because Alice is going to get messages from Bob, and Bob's computer will have picked one of her 2 encryption keys, and she's going to get an email and she'll be on her laptop and her laptop can't open it, and she's going to go, oh, Bob sent this to my desktop encryption key, and she has to walk over to the desktop. So there's no reason to have multiple encryption subkeys. you may as well just share your encryption subkey between machines, because it's not up to you as to which one people encrypt stuff to. Otherwise, this looks pretty good. This looks like a pretty good set of keys to me. So Alice is going to go save, and it quits it. Now Alice can do GPG list keys for Alice, and there we go. We've got 2 subkeys. This is on Alice's offline machine, by the way. Now would be a good time for Alice to just go, I'm going to go GPG --armor --export Alice, and I'm gonna copy this text file onto a USB drive, or I'm gonna have my offline laptop there and my online laptop here, and I'm gonna type it into my. She's not gonna do that. Alice is gonna copy this to a USB drive and actually sneak and edit to her online computer. And as long as she's not worried about USB malware infecting her live CD, it should be fine. So on Alice's desktop, she can then go cat from end of file into GPG --import. By the way, I keep doing this trick here. When you do cat ~EOF pipe something, it lets you do stuff like this. You know, cat ~EOF pipe. Actually, I'm going to go to my desktop real quick. Cat ~EOF into XXD, which is just a hex viewer. And you can put it whatever you want here. As soon as you go EOF, then Linux or the shell will just take this here as a file, basically as if you're catting a file, and pipe it into XXD, just like that. So when I do stuff like cat ~EOF pipe GPG --import, and then I hit enter and I paste stuff, it's just like catting a file, piping it into GPG import, but you don't need to save the file. Nice little shortcut. So Alice is just going to once again copy this onto a USB drive, copy it to the clipboard, do this trick here, paste, EOF, and Alice now has public keys for Alice on her desktop. So on her desktop, Alice can do GPG --list keys Alice. And Alice can go through and find the revoked key from earlier today, and she'll probably want to back that key up. We haven't gone into backing up keys, but to back up keys, like public keys, you just do that. That's all you need to do to back up public keys. To back up private keys, you do GPG --armor --export secret keys Alice. And that's how you back up private keys. And this is Alice's private key, but it's just a throwaway key. It's not an important key, so don't get excited because I just showed a private key on stream. You should always back up your keys and keep them in nice, secure medium somewhere. And by the way, the cool thing is with the private key block is if you export it, it'll still be protected with your passphrase. So you can back this up, put it on a USB drive, take it to work and lock it up in a drawer, or take it to the bank and put it in a safety deposit box, or stick it under your pillow. And if someone finds it, they still need your passphrase to decrypt this key, which is kind of cool. Anyway, we're off in the weeds a bit. Alice should probably back up her revoked key and make sure there's a copy, so that if she ever needs to decrypt stuff that was encrypted to it, she's got a copy. But for the time being, I'm just going to delete it to get it out of our hair. GPG, delete keys, blah. Nope. Oh, you can't delete public keys if there's a secret key there. So we'll do delete secret keys for the revoked one. Yep. Yep. And then we'll delete the public key for the revoked one. Yep. So now Alice has got the public keys, the public master key, and the 2 public subkeys on her desktop machine, on her daily desktop machine. If Alice does GPG --list secret keys, she's got no secret keys on her desktop. Sad face. So Alice is halfway there. She's generated a perfect keychain. I call it perfect because there's a guide called Perfect PGP, which is where I learned how to do it this way. This is a really good guide. I don't intend to replace this guide because I've been waffling for more than 2 hours now. If you want to achieve what I've achieved tonight in less than 2 hours, just read this guide, and there's some good stuff in the comments too. It'll tell you how to do exactly what I'm doing. So that's spoiler. So Alice has generated the keys using secure GPG preferences based on Jacob Applebaum's and Ben's stuff. She's generated them offline and kept... Well, it doesn't really matter, but she's generated them offline, and the master key hasn't touched her. Actually, none of the secret keys have touched her daily machine. So she's on her way. All she needs to do now is get the private part of the subkeys onto her desktop, and then share the public stuff with Bob and do the key exchange dance. So now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. What Alice wants to do is do the... she wants to GPG --armor --export Alice. Alice pubkeys.gpg. Right? Alice just wants to export those keys to a file, the public keys. And then she wants to do export secret keys to Alice privkeys.gpg. So Alice has got these two files. She should probably, I mean, the pub keys she's already copied onto her desktop machine. But at this stage, Alice wants to basically store these offline on an SD card, maybe a full disk encrypted SD card, to kind of really layer that encryption on there. But now is the time for Alice to do that. Actually, now is the time as well. Now is the time for Alice on her offline machine to GPG gen revoke Alice, and we'll armor as well, and we'll redirect it to Alice revo.gpg. Yep, create a revo for that key, that's fine. She might want to do this exercise for all 4 reasons, but for today, let's just do the keys no longer used one. Number 3, description, leave it blank. Is that okay? Yes. Passphrase is Alice's PGP passphrase. Cool. So Alice now has a revocation certificate. Alice should store these 3 files on an SD card offline somewhere, sticking under the pillow. Now, here's where it gets a little bit dangerous. Help grep subkeys. Subkey, sub. Nope. I forget this bit. I'm going to go to the perfect PGP. Oh, cool. There's a hack and use thread. So if you want to find a whole bunch of differences of opinions, go read that as well. So how do we do this bit where we delete the master key? Okay, I was on the right track, but it's just that the -- help didn't actually give me what I wanted. So, yeah, cool. What Alice needs to now do is GPG -- export secret subkeys, because Alice already did export secret keys. So Alice already done export secret keys. Alice now does export secret subkeys. Let's armor it, why not? Armoring never hurt anyone. For Alice to Alice priv, not priv keys, but priv subkeys.gpg. And then cat that. Yep, private key block. I think that's really all she needs to do. What was this guide going to tell me to do? It was going to tell me to export the secret subkeys and then delete the secret key and then import the subkeys. Okay, so this guide here is assuming that you're doing this activity on your desktop machine connected to the internet, where it could be riddled with Trojans, which is not a good idea. You should not do your master key generation on your daily machine. You should do it on that Kali machine. Otherwise, Alice is done. She's got these 4 keys here, 4 files. She's already transferred the pub keys to her daily machine. We already saw that. She should still keep that on a flash drive or an SD card somewhere. Private keys, just keep it on a flash drive. Like, don't put that on the desktop. Revocation certificate, yeah, she can put that on the desktop if she wants. I'd put it on the flash drive only, and make sure that she has 2 copies of the flash drive, 2 different places in the world, sort of thing. Keep them both secure. But there's not much harm in putting the revocation certificate on your daily computer. Worst thing that could happen is if someone steals it, they're going to revoke the shit out of all your keys and make you have a bad day. But it doesn't help them actually decrypt your stuff. Like, it's just going to be a real nuisance. As for the private subkeys, Alice should copy that to her desktop. I mean, if the private subkeys get stolen, she's having a bad day, because people can make signatures as her and they can read all her old encrypted email. But if she knows it's been stolen, she can bring these private keys back online, or she can just go and, if she wants to panic, she can just fire that whole revocation certificate off and blow the whole keyring out of the water. But if Alice wants to be nice, calm, cool, and collected about it, she can bring these private keys back online, generate revocation certificates, which 10 o'clock. Yeah, we'll do that real. We'll see how we go. She can bring the private keys back online to generate revocation certificates for the compromised subkeys, and everything's all hunky-dory. So these private subkeys should go to her desktop machine. So I'm going to copy this here, which is the private subkeys file. There. So I'm going to copy all this to the clipboard, just to simulate the whole, sneakernet flash drive kind of thing. On Alice's daily machine, she'll go cat EOF pipe GPG import. Yep, import's fine. She'll go paste EOF, and we've got a secret key imported. Secret keys read 1, secret keys imported 1. That was the private sub keys. There should have been 2 sub keys. Anyway, what Alice can now do is gpg -- list secret keys. See what she gets. Alice has got 2 secret subkeys. Here they are. And she's got 1 master key, but it's got this hash next to sec. The hash means it's missing. So Alice actually doesn't have this master key on her, the master private key on her daily machine, which is good. That's what she wanted. The master private key is only on her offline machine. List secret keys, Alice. There you go, the secret key is on her offline machine only. At this point in time, Alice can actually shut her offline computer down, assuming she's actually made copies of all these 4 files onto a flash drive and put them somewhere. I just realized my camera is totally in the way of what I'm doing. Damn! Hopefully, did we miss much? Was I covering up what I was doing there? Are the devices there so you can write different drivers and all the apps work with them? No, the devices are on Linux because everything's a file. Just because. That's the Unix way. I mean, yeah, maybe there's actually a practical reason, but everything on Unix is a file. That's always been the philosophy. There's probably good reasons for the philosophy, but why is the sky blue? Because it is. Why is everything on a Linux a file? Because it is. That's why those device files are there. Damn, was I covering up? I couldn't have been covering. I was probably covering up while I was highlighting these files. Hopefully my narration of what was going on in this Docker container made sense, even though my stupid face was in the way. Sorry about that. Right, Alice is done. Alice can now go and gpg -- export Alice. Whoops, she needs to armor it. Armor. There it is. Alice can copy that to the clipboard. and give it to Bob, and Bob can go cat enter file GPG import, and Bob can import Alice's public keys, and then Bob can go GPG sign key Alice, and Bob can get Alice's fingerprint, and Bob can call Alice and say, yo Alice, what's your fingerprint? And Alice can go Alice, oops, no, GPG fingerprint Alice. I'm gonna fix this real quick because it's annoying me. I'm gonna comment this out because it's annoying me. Alice can do the fingerprint thing and she can read this out over the phone. A178F8D3. Bob can compare that it looks the same on his computer, and once he's validated that Alice's fingerprint is legit, Bob can go, yes, I really want to sign Alice's key. And Bob can enter his PGP passphrase. And Bob has signed Alice's key, and now Bob can go GPG export and actually give Alice's signed key back to Alice. Now Alice needs to revalidate Bob's key because she went and deleted her key, which was the trust anchor for actually trusting Bob's key. So Alice needs to do that exercise again. Alice has already got Bob's key, and you'll see that GPG-E, if Alice tries to re-encrypt that message to Bob, and goes Bob, oh shit, it actually works. I think Alice needs to update the trust DB. Yeah, cool, okay. Because, yeah, Alice deleted that key. She should have recomputed the trust database. Man, there's so many rabbit holes in PGP to fall down, and there's no wonder that people find it confusing and that people break it and end up breaking their communications and getting shot. No wonder that people find it difficult. Even I, as I use it, kind of go, huh, that's weird. And I have to kind of think, oh yeah, I need to update the trust DB. Like, there's so many gotchas. And this is just in a lab environment as well. So now a couple of things are going on here. First of all, Alice needs to sign Bob's key because she lost that trust anchor. Now GPG -- sign key Bob. And Alice can call up Bob and do the GPG -- fingerprint Bob. And Bob can read the fingerprint, and Alice can verify that the fingerprint matches over the phone and do the whole thing. And Alice can go, yes, I really want to sign Bob's key. But Alice can't sign keys on her desktop because her certify key is on the offline computer. So this is actually the pain in the butthole thing about doing the whole offline key thing. If you want to sign your friend's key, you've got to go and boot up your offline computer, which is a bit of a pain in the butthole. But I mean, if you're keen on trying PGP, there's no reason why you can't try this whole offline computer thing. If you decide it's too much of a nuisance for what you need out of PGP, you can always bring that private master key online and go, to hell with that exercise, I'm just going to do the traditional PGP with an extra sub key hanging around, and it's not going to really matter anyway, ever, at all. But you can't go the other way. Well, you technically can go the other way, but it's a bad idea to go the other way. There's no real point in going, oh, I'm going to take this key off my computer in case my computer's gotten hacked and put it on an offline computer, because if your computer's hacked, the key's already gone. It's already stolen. So if you want to be paranoid, you can always become less paranoid later, but you can't go the other direction. So now what Alice is going to do on her desktop is she is going to GPG export Bob. She's going to armor it. Now when I say armor, by the way, it just makes everything become base 64. Alice is going to copy Bob's public key to the offline computer and cat EOF GPG import paste EOF. She's going to import Bob's key onto her offline computer. She's going to go GPG sign key Bob. Alice is going to call Bob and compare the fingerprints once more. Or maybe she was smart and actually wrote it on a piece of paper last time she called Bob, then booted the machine up. Alice can now sign Bob's key. And because Alice's certify key is actually on this offline computer, she can put in her passphrase to unlock the master key, and Bob's key has been signed. Alice can now do GPG-export, whoops, need to armor it. Export Bob on her offline computer. Copy it back to her online computer. Cat, EOF, GPG, import, paste, EOF. And the key has got one new signature. And if Alice now does GPG, list sigs Bob, then Bob's key has this signature from Alice's old key. That's fine. That's just going to always and forevermore be a part of Bob's key. Bob can't delete that because it's already on. If it's already on key servers, next time Bob downloads his key from key servers, he's going to get it back. Like that's parasitic and that's there forever now. You can't get rid of it once it's on key servers. But Bob's got a new signature belonging to Alice on his key. So that's all well and good. So now Alice can do the whole encrypt the message to Bob, go Bob, and she's still having problems. She's still getting this warning that there's no assurance that this key belongs to the named user. Alice has got one more step left to go. Alice needs to go GPG-edit Alice, and she actually needs to trust her own key. Because right now, Bob's key is signed by Alice's key, but Alice's computer doesn't really kind of give two shits about Alice's key just yet. It doesn't know that Alice's key is Alice's key, and that it should be able to become a trust anchor. So on her desktop machine, Alice is going to do GPG-edit Alice, go trust. She needs to choose how much she trusts this key, and she's going to choose ultimately. Only ever do ultimate trust for your own key. For a really good friend who you trust makes good life decisions, pick fully. For someone who you're like, they kind of know PGP, choose marginally. And both these don't really do anything. If you do full trust for someone, then anyone whose key they've signed, you will trust implicitly. For marginal, I think you need to have like 3 friends who have all done marginal, and that will add up to 1 full. Don't worry about offending your friends by saying that you trust them marginally. They're not going to say, what, you don't trust me to do PGP properly? Because they won't know what trust setting you've chosen. When you edit anyone's key, and in this case, Alice is editing her own key to pick ultimate trust, but if Alice was to edit Bob's key and say, I trust marginally because Bob's kind of a dickhead, she's not actually editing Bob's key. And if she exports Bob's key and gives it back to him, Bob's not going to find out about this trust thing. It's purely a local configuration. It doesn't actually change the key, even though you're doing an edit key operation. So there's no worry about offending people. As for Alice's own key, she's going to say, I trust ultimately. Do you really want to set this key to ultimate trust? Yep. Cool, she's going to go save. And the key wasn't actually changed, so no update needed. That makes sense. Can we now do the encryption? Bob. Hey, there we go. The encryption didn't complain this time. And she can also go Alice. And Alice just encrypted a message to Bob. So she's just rejigged her own computer to basically trust Bob's key again. And I think Bob's already done the GPG-sigs list sigs Alice. Yeah, Bob's already signed Alice's key. Cool. So I think we're almost done. I have to sneeze. No, we're good. I think the last exercise we might want to do might be for Alice to actually perform key rotation, just as a demo. because on Alice's offline computer we've got GPG list keys. We've got these two subkeys. We've got the master key. The master key never ever gets revoked until the end of days, and Alice has been like, oh shit, someone stole my key. I'm going to revoke it and blow it all away. But these subkeys, Alice can rotate them whenever she kind of feels the need to. If she needs to revoke them because she thinks they got stolen, she can. If she needs to revoke them because she just wants to use new keys, she can. Because one of the biggest issues with PGP is that there's no forward secrecy. If your keys ever get compromised, if your encryption key ever gets compromised, your attacker can read anything that was ever encrypted to that key. Like that's just how it goes. Whereas if you're regularly changing your encryption key, it means that if someone steals one of your encryption subkeys, they can't decrypt everything. They can only decrypt like 6 months worth of email or 1 year's worth of email, which is still going to suck, but not as much as all your email ever. The question then becomes, how comfortable are you changing your key and actually not having your old key sit on your laptop? Because the more keys you've got sitting on your laptop, if your laptop gets hacked, and you're all up shit creek again anyway, you kind of, once you change your keys, want to consider actually deleting them from your laptop, putting them in offline storage with your master key, put it on the same flash drive that's under your pillow, and then if you ever need to refer to old email, you'll just have to either temporarily bring the old key online to decrypt the email, or even better, take that email offline to another computer, use your old key there to decrypt it, and then bring the old email back online. Because otherwise, if you bring that key online and your machine's compromised, then someone can steal that key and get access to an extra year or two's worth of email, which is bad. So you have to be mindful about how you perform key rotation. But it's important because PGP doesn't give forward secrecy. So, how do we do this? It's been a while since I've actually played with revoking subkeys, so I'm just going to Google it because I'm getting tired and lazy. GPG revoke subkey. Oh man, this is more confusing than I remember it being. I think this guide is wrong. This is to do with revoking a UID, not a subkey. That's kind of scary that that's the first result on Google for revoke subkey. I don't think that's right. Let's check the Debian wiki. Let's see if maybe I'm reading it wrong. This is like a really good page. If you're confused on the subkey, the whole idea of subkeys and master keys and why you should have subkeys, if I recall correctly, Debian explains it quite well. This here's the guide that we did before, actually. Yeah, we did the delete. Yeah, that's what we did before. Cool. Yeah, this looks better. Rev key, not rev UID. Don't revoke your user IDs. That's not what you want to do when you're trying to revoke subkeys. So I think that first guide was wrong. Yeah, so here's what I was saying before with the signing subkeys. If you've got multiple encryption subkeys, then people are going to encrypt to whatever they feel like encrypting. The most recent, not the first. Yeah, cool. Rightio. Let's do this. Let's do this. So on Alice's offline computer, she can do gpg-edit-key Alice, and she can do list to list the keys. And we've got two subkeys here. Select the unwanted one, key 123. Guessing you do key, then the full key ID. What if we put a bad key ID there? Ugh. How do you actually pick one of these three keys? Key 2. Aha, key 1. Key 2. Key 0. Yeah, so if you go key 1, you get a star next to key 1. If you do key 2, you get a star next to key 2. And we want to revoke both of these subkeys. Because let's say they were compromised, or Alice knows she had malware on this desktop here, and so she wants to revoke both of these subkeys for being compromised. So I guess you just do key 1 and key 2 to actually select these two keys here, and then you do rev key. Rev key. Do you really want to revoke the selected subkeys? Yes. Why? The keys have been compromised. There was malware on the desktop, so we're going to go compromised just so everyone knows just how serious this revocation is. Optional description. No, not going to give one. Is that okay? Yep. You need a passphrase. Alice is going to do her GPG passphrase. Do it again, because maybe it's doing two revocations. There we go. So now these two subkeys, subkey 1 and subkey 2, they're both revoked. Both of those subkeys are revoked. So now Alice has her master key and two revoked subkeys. So now Alice does, is it add key? Yep, add key. Puts in the passphrase, because she needs to generate a new encryption subkey and a new signing subkey. So she's going to go for the first one, which was a RSA key. You can see the R here means RSA, and it's an encryption key. So she's going to go RSA encrypt only. Number 6. Size key 1024. Valid for 2 years. Yep. Again, she'd better check the date, make sure it looks sane. So now we've got a new subkey here. And then we'll do add key and create a new signing subkey. Put the GPG passphrase in. She's going to go RSA sign only, number 4. What size key? 1024. 2 years. Yes, that date looks fine. Really create it? Yes. Cool. And then she's going to save. And now Alice can do gpg-list-keys Alice. And she's got... Okay, so what GPG is doing is it's actually hiding the revoked subkeys from this list keys view. So you can see the old subkeys were 86 and 57. They're not on the list. The ones that are in the list are BC and B4, which are the two new keys. Cool. Alice can also do gpg-list-secret-keys for Alice. And she can see she's actually got 4 secret keys, because she's actually able to use those revoked keys to still look at the old stuff that was encrypted to them or signed by the signature one. Doesn't make much sense. But the encryption one does, because even though the key was compromised, she still wants to use it to look at the old emails. Now, what Alice wants to do is gpg-armor-export to export the public keys to Alice_pubkeys.gpg. That's fine. Oops. Need to put in the name Alice. Ah! That's not what I wanted. Redirect the output. There we go. She also wants to export the secret keys. Remember, it's important to re-export all these things because she's got new keys, so she actually needs to back up the new state of the keys. I mean, the old files don't matter anymore, but she needs to make sure she backs up the additions and the changes to the keys before she puts them back on the thumb drive, back under the pillow. So we're going to go export secret keys, and we're going to redirect that output to Alice, I think it's Alice priv keys. Yep. And she's finally going to do export secret subkeys and redirect that to Alice priv subkeys. Cool. The revocation certificate doesn't actually change because that revocation certificate, when you just do GPG gen revoke, that revocation targets the master key. So this revocation certificate here is for the master key, and when the master key gets revoked, all the subkeys are just useless. So that revo certificate doesn't change. Alice doesn't need to regenerate that revocation certificate at all. Alice needs to make sure that these 3 files get copied to her thumb drive for offline storage. And what Alice needs to do is actually bring the pub keys online. So she needs to copy this here. And do the old cat GPG import, paste, EOF. And we can see that this import of the public key block resulted in 2 new subkeys and 4 new signatures. Now the 4 signatures, there's going to be 2 signatures, which are the self signatures for these 2 subkeys, and there'll be 2 revocation signatures that came with it as well for the old subkeys. Alice also wants to do cats Alice private subkeys to bring all of her subkeys onto her desktop. So we'll copy that. Cat EOF pipe GPG import, paste EOF, and we've got new secret keys. So now Alice on her desktop can do GPG list keys Alice, and we've got these 2 new subkeys, BC and B4. Let's just check to make sure that looks right. With BC and B4 the new subkeys? Yes, they were. Brand new subkeys, BC and B4. On Alice's desktop, she's also got list secret keys for Alice. She still doesn't have the master key. Oh, is she missing secret subkeys? GG list secret keys. Yeah, Alice is missing some subkeys. Where did we go wrong? This was the subkeys here, yeah? Try that again. Alice private subkeys. Let's copy that. List secret keys. She's missing subkeys. Missing private subkeys. I'm going to try this straight from here. Wonder if this is a GPG bug. Why can't Alice import these new secret subkeys? I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm going to... First of all, I'm going to go GPG list packets on Alice secret private subkeys. Oops. How many keys does this have? 1 grep sub grep secret. Okay, so this file here, the priv subkeys file, has 4 secret subkeys. I'm going to do something crazy. On Alice's desktop, I'm going to go GPG delete secret keys for Alice. Yes. Yes. I'm going to re-import those private subkeys from scratch. Maybe GPG is not merging stuff properly. That looks better. Alice now has 4 secret subkeys. Weird. GPG really should have just merged those secret keys. Maybe GPG is super careful about merging secret keys. Maybe it doesn't want to risk combining stuff in ways that it shouldn't. Maybe that's for safety's sake. Irregardless, Alice now has the 4 secret subkeys, but the master key she still has never ever put on her desktop. She can now do GPG -- export. Oops, needs to armor it. She can export the Alice public keys, give them to Bob, who can go EOF pipe GPG import, paste that there, and Bob gets the brand new subkeys for Alice and goes GPG list keys Alice, and here's the brand new subkeys, and he still trusts Alice fully, and he can still do and encrypt a message to Alice, and say it's to Alice, and there's no warnings about untrusted keys. So that's the gist of it. That's how Alice could, if she wanted to, generate all of her keys offline using sound GPG parameters, and keep the master key offline, bring the subkeys online, give the public keys to Bob. They can sign each other's keys. Bob can sign Alice's master key. Alice can sign Bob's master key. But when Alice signs Bob's key, she's got to do it on the offline computer because her daily computer doesn't have the certify the master key. And then when Alice gets kind of squeamish and thinks that she's got malware on her day-to-day desktop, she can pull out the offline computer and revoke the secrets, or revoke the subkeys, generate new subkeys, and then bring the entire schmozzle of the public keys back to her desktop, and bring the secret subkeys back to her desktop, but never that master key. And then as soon as Alice sends her keys back up to key servers, because her offline computer generated revocation material for the compromised subkeys, if Alice was to send her keys up to key servers, then she would push out the revocation to the rest of the world for the subkeys and say, hey, these subkeys, stop using them. I'm kind of a bit unsure about those. But here's some new subkeys that I want you to use. And the reason why that's possible is because Alice has a copy of her master key on the offline computer. And that master key can do anything. It can revoke the whole lot. It can just revoke certain subkeys. It can create new subkeys. It can sign other people's keys. And it's a very powerful key. It's why you want to keep it offline. I mean, in terms of operational security, your encryption subkey and your signing subkey are probably more important, and you want to keep your desktop super secure. But when the shit hits the fan, you've got the option of having always kept that master key offline, so that with a shit-covered fan, you can still make the most of a really bad situation. You can still go by the same key ID and the same fingerprint in public. Anyone who's ever signed your key, you can still reap the benefits. You can just have new subkeys for the actual workhorse of your crypto for your signing, authentication, and encryption. Any questions, queries, concerns? I know that this is super dry stuff. We've been going for 3 hours now. I'm super keen to clock off and call it a night. Before I do, are there any questions, queries, concerns about PGP? Did I learn everything alone? Nope, no man's an island. I searched Google a lot. A misspent youth was spent reading all the text files and all the zines I could get my hands on. And since those days, I Google and I read a bunch. I read NetSec. I read a bunch of books, tutorials. I've done OSCP, OSCE, a couple of other courses. I've done the Corlan exploit dev courses. So I pick up bits from here and there. But as far as PGP goes, it was really just from reading Debian's stuff about keys and reading the perfect... Oops, I just closed the window. The perfect GPG key pair, and kind of just putting it together bit by bit. And I've also got some amazing friends who, when I am dumb, they help me be less dumb. Jardith, I'm sure you're well gone by now, but it was good to have you around. I'll catch you around, dude. First time you didn't miss the stream, you're watching it at school. Good stuff. Pay attention in school though. I'm streaming's good, but school's important. Very much. I'm taking it that there's no burning questions about PGP. I'm sure everyone's keen to not have to deal with PGP again. We'll be doing one more PGP stream, not this Sunday because I don't want to do it again anytime soon. We'll be doing it in the next couple of weeks. We'll be looking at how to put your subkeys onto a YubiKey, which we'll cover the benefits of during that stream. But I suggest before that stream, if you've got your YubiKey and you're just dying to go and put some PGP keys on it, do this exercise with a couple of VMs or a couple of Docker containers, or even with an old laptop for the offline thing, and practice the sneaker netting. Practice generating keys, practice revoking subkeys, practice revoking the master keys. Get your head around the way that your keys fit together, because it will mean that when you actually do the whole YubiKey exercise, you'll feel a lot more comfortable with how it works, and you'll hopefully get it right the first time and won't need to revoke your keys in a couple of weeks because you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize that my master key was saved in a text file in my home directory on my computer. I should probably start from scratch. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the more chance that your first key will be a good one. So if you're looking forward to the YubiKey stuff, make sure you get some practice in. Will I stream tomorrow night? No, I won't. I normally stream on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, so not tomorrow night. Learning basic application development, way below my level, it'll be fine. Good stuff. Yeah, sorry to over yawn. It wears me out a bit to talk for 3 hours straight, so I try to keep it to twice a week. We may be dropping to once a week sometime this year. If I start running out of topics and start getting burnt out again, because towards the end of last year I was looking forward to that streaming break. It's great fun. It's just tough to talk for 3 hours straight. I love it. What will the next lesson be? Good question. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. I know that people want to see some fuzzing. We wanted to do some heap stuff. But as far as what the next one will be, is I'll probably just pick a pwnable, a web pwnable or a binary pwnable, and we'll tackle that. Best tips for it, the Synapse TV. Tips for what? For the PGP stuff? Want to see protocol hacking. What do you mean when you say protocol hacking, Doveryorn? Do you mean implementing protocols or finding protocol bugs? And when you say protocols, do you mean TCP or do you mean HTTP and web servers and stuff? I probably won't be doing research on stream. I won't be looking for real live bugs on stream. If I find protocol bugs, then I'll be sure to talk about them once it's appropriate to do so. But I won't go stumbling on O'Day on stream. Oh yeah, no, that's if you want to send words with TCP to servers and hack like that. Yeah, we'll be doing that with the binary ponables. Can you do some sniffing? No, yeah. It's not that exciting with the sniffing. I mean, you can fire up Wireshark and look at stuff scream down the page and look at stuff that people on Wi-Fi are looking at, but it's not that interesting. And more and more stuff's getting encrypted with TLS these days, anyway. But yeah, Dovion, like when I say we're going to do a ponable, a ponable is typically a small binary executable, Windows executable, normally a Linux executable, and you run it, then you feed some stuff into its standard input, and it will behave in a certain way, and you can crash it, you can exploit it. The idea behind doing them is that you have to imagine in the real world that program is actually running and listening on a TCP socket. And really, it's the difference between this. Like if you're running it on your local machine and you just want to kind of run your exploit and pipe the output into the input of the program, then you'll do this: user bin and Python 2. Then you'll just do like print hello world. I didn't actually write / exploit.py. Python exploit.py, and then you'll just kind of pipe that into the vulnerable program like that. If it's a remote service, then you'll do it like this: import socket s equals socket.socket socket dot I think it's AFINet socket dot sock stream s dot, I think it's s dot open. I haven't done raw sockets in a while. I normally use Pwn tools. hackme.com on port 31337 s dot send hello world, new line, s.close. That's how you send stuff over TCP. Like it's basically that easy. Create a new socket, open a connection, send stuff, close it. Things get more complicated when you need to send and receive, but that's the gist of it. That's how you do it using the socket library. If you're lazy like me, just go import pwn, s equals pwn.remote, hackme.com 31337 s.send line hello world. And that's how you do it with 3 lines of Python using the pwn library, which is just gets rid of all this nasty boilerplate awfulness. And lets you just do it super nicely. So as far as actually, implementing protocols and sending stuff over TCP goes, with Python, it's stupid easy. The more interesting part is finding the bug in a compiled program and knowing what sort of inputs trigger that bug and what sort of inputs would be required to exploit that bug. The TCP stuff is just boilerplate, really. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, s.recv as well would be to receive stuff. But when it comes to recv, because it's like buffered input, you've got to actually say I want to recv 4096 bytes, and really you'll just get whatever the OS has waiting for you. There might be 5 bytes waiting in the buffer, and the operating system's going to go, yeah, sure. I mean, you asked for 4096, but all I've got is 5 right now. Here's 5. So you've got to actually have your program go, oh, I only got 5 bytes. I needed more than that. I'm going to go back and ask for more. Or, oh no, 5's fine. 5 will do. I'll work with 5. You've got to worry about how you buffer your input and how aggressively you read. And you've got to know how many bytes to read, which is when you've then got the protocol has to implement TLV stuff and things like that. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Hopefully that helped with the the protocol stuff. Yeah, we can do that, but the protocol and the sending and the receiving is the easy bit. The bug and the exploit's the hard bit. But if there's no more queries, questions, concerns, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much, everyone, for dropping by for the first stream of the year. I'm sorry it had to be PGP, but as I said at the beginning of the night, I wanted to eat the frog. Because if you start the year with a PGP stream, it can only get better from there. And we'll finish off with the YubiKeys shortly. So thanks again for joining. Hope you got something out of it, and I will catch you all on the tubes. Take it easy.